dragons did.
The threat of war looms.
There is no war so hateful as a war between kin.
I mean to fight this war and win it.
I will not be thought weak. I wish to spill blood.
And no war so bloody as a war between dragons.
Always coming and going, aren't you? And I have to clean up afterwards.
You will die in this place.
Greetings. You're muted, Jeremy.
I am muted. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. I was saying, man, if that isn't an ominous foreshadowing, then I just don't know what is. Alice Rivers just letting Damon know right off the bat. It looks like she knows exactly where his fate is going to come to an end, and right there at Harrenhal, nonetheless. So I am really looking forward to seeing how that plays out on the show. Proper foreshadowing right there. Absolutely love that. And welcome one, welcome all, as we are getting ready to dive into some episode 3 discussion and, of course, some episode 4 predictions, as we are just one day away from the big one, ladies and gentlemen, the one that we have all been waiting for, the one where the episode where the Dance of the Dragons truly begins. So welcome one, welcome all. We are going to dive into all things this evening. All things House of the Dragon. Hell yes. But of course, we got to say what is up to the awesome chat and my awesome co-host joining us this evening. Aldous, fresh off the farm. How's it going, my friend? And how'd you feel with episode 3?
Going great, Jeremy. And, I was pretty clear that I felt 1 and 2 were excellent. They were setting everything up. They were doing all the exposition they needed to do. And then this one starts off and we get that beautiful, it's a great opening with a nice precursor of the Burning Mill. And then we don't get the Burning Mill. And
yes.
It proceeds into more exposition. Now, I thought they're setting things up good, but, part of a show, especially a show like this, where it's, a continual story building, each episode builds upon each other. One of the testament things that you really need to be concerned about is pacing. And I think that they missed it with this. They had good momentum going into this. And then this was like, every time I expected it to get going, it didn't. And it doesn't mean action, but it means more than just constant exposition. I think if they would have split up the back and forth between the two councils with some just flashes, 30-second, 45-second flashes of the combat at Burning Mill, I think it really would have amped this up a little bit, given it a little bit more cost. You would have actually seen what was going on.
Yeah, see the cost of war, and what starts off as a petty, rivalry between two small houses can escalate into what is essentially the very first ground battle in the entire Dance of the Dragons. So I did get a lot of that in my comment sections as well for my episode 3 reviews. A lot of people were a little disappointed that they skipped right over the Burning Mill, and I get it. Time is, screen time is limited this year when we only have 8 episodes, but I definitely agree with you in terms of the pacing. I feel like for these first 3 episodes so far, the pacing has been good at times and very lacking at other times. I feel like sometimes they're spending a little bit too much time on things they could probably get done in a half the scene. And some things they're skipping over a little too quickly, in my opinion. I know I've said it multiple times, but the Cregan Stark scenes with Jace in episode 1, I feel like that was just, I loved what we got there. Absolutely loved seeing the North again. Love hearing that Stark music that I am so fond of. but I feel like that scene in particular could have been fleshed out a little bit more. Blood and Cheese probably could have been set up a little bit better. Just small little things like that for me personally, that I'm having some problems with some of the pacing here and there. But yeah, I do think episode 4 is going to kick it up a notch. This is definitely going to be the big one, the one that I feel like a lot of us have definitely been waiting for. The first 3 episodes had some really good scenes and some really good character development, and they're really building up to something. But the first 3 definitely felt like mostly build up. With not a whole lot of substance behind it. I was really looking forward to the Damon scenes at Harrenhal, and I loved those in episode 3. But again, much like with the Cregan thing, I loved what we got there. I just feel like we didn't get nearly enough of it. And I know we're going to get some more. Damon does spend a good amount of time at Harrenhal. We will see Damon at Harrenhal in episode 4 as well. And it looks like he is going to continue to have some visions. But yeah, overall, I'm enjoying it so far, but I am definitely noticing the pacing issues. And I'm not sure if that's because they got reduced to 8 episodes this season or what, but definitely noticing a few of the pacing issues. But what is up, Kayla? Welcome, welcome. What did you think about episode 3?
Definitely the pacing issues, and I could have done without the brothel scene and had a battle scene, in short. So there were some deviations from the source material that I actually enjoyed towards the end, and I kind of Karen Hall didn't hit as hard for me as I thought it would. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah, again, I really enjoyed the Harrenhal scenes. I just feel like I wish we would have got a little bit more of it. But yeah, I feel like, Alice Rivers had a pretty good introduction. I feel like she's going to be a very interesting character on the show. I cannot wait to get some more Damon and Alice scenes, and we are going to be getting some of those in episode 4 as well. But yeah, it's off to a good start, just not a great start, I guess I would say. But I really think from episode 4 on, I really think it's going to be kicked up a notch once the blood and guts really start to flow and the Dance of the Dragons truly begins. I do get a feeling from episode 4 on we're going to be enjoying it a little bit more. But what about you, Snug? What do you think overall of episode 3?
Yeah, I had some of the same issues. I thought that the first scene where they kind of pan into the aftermath of the battle, I thought that would have been a lot more powerful if it was followed up. It seemed to be building. I would be a little bit more interested if they kind of looked at the aftermath of all these battles on the small folk and the people who aren't royalty, a little bit more. I mean, maybe they'll get to that, but yeah, I didn't. It focused on too many things that didn't really seem to be relevant, and some of the scenes were just a little bit too long and drawn out. Like his entrance to Harrenhal, just to me, it was like for nothing to happen. It was just kind of a little bit longer than it needed to be, I thought.
Well, that scene I actually enjoyed, and I actually wish we could have got a few more of those scenes. And the way that I took it anyway was we see Damon landing at Harrenhal like this, and it seems like Damon has been really itching for a fight. The one thing Damon really wants is a fight, and they talk a little bit about that in some of the behind-the-scenes features with Damon's character, where Damon, he's the rogue prince at the end of the day. Damon wants to fight. He wants to be fire and blood. He wants to use Caraxes in battle, and I think Damon landing at Harrenhal, I think he was expecting, or at the very least hoping for some kind of resistance. And he's just not getting it. I feel like that's what that scene was trying to convey to us, that he's going through Harrenhal, he's going through the halls, he's hoping to find a fight, but he can't find it anywhere. Lo and behold, he finally gets to the dinner table, and it's a bunch of old fat men sitting at a table. The kind of anticlimactic, entrance I think Damon was hoping for. That's kind of what I took away from it. But I do agree with you in terms of some scenes being drawn out a little bit longer than they need to be. Like the Ulf the White scene, I really enjoyed the Ulf the White scene, but I feel like that could have been achieved in a fraction of the amount of time that they spent on Ulf. He was a great character. I feel like that, I like Ulf's personality. He's very prone to telling tall tales about being the son of Balon the Brave and all that. So I enjoyed it, but I feel They could have introduced Ulf's character in a fraction of the time, and it still would have had the same effect. And that would have left some more screen time to, maybe get some more Damon and Harrenhal scenes, or like you said, Aldous, some more actually see some action of the Battle of the Burning Mill.
Yeah.
But
And,
again, sorry, go ahead.
and maybe it's building up, and it just needs to culminate, because what I think you can kind of see is that when you get to Harrenhal, they're not ready to fight. And then most of the other, and even the petitioners in a previous episode where they're saying, that they need, relief from taxes. It's like no one wants this fight or needs this fight except for the Targaryens. And so I wonder if they're setting that up to kind of have a little bit of maybe commentary on that, or to kind of contrast the outlook of the the House of the Dragon people versus the regular people.
Interesting.
So,
Interesting.
I don't know, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, when I think about what they're doing with some of the decisions on House of the Dragon, it definitely seems like they're trying to at least remind the audience at time that this is going to lead into Game of Thrones. I feel like they're kind of hitting us over the head with that at times, in particular with this episode and the whole dragon egg thing, and the whole reveal that the dragon eggs that we saw in this episode, at least on the TV show canon, are indeed the same dragon eggs that Daenerys comes across 172 years later. So I feel like they are trying very hard at times to really connect this show to Game of Thrones, and I understand it's all of the same continuity. The book continuity and the show continuity are two totally different things. So I get it. They want to make sure that they connect the show to Game of Thrones as much as possible. So I get what they were going for, but I did see the egg decision came under a lot of criticism over the week. I saw so many comments of people talking about the eggs, and in particular how book readers weren't too fond of that decision. I didn't really mind it too much myself personally. Just because I know this show does lead into Game of Thrones. They are two different continuities, but I did see a lot of people commenting on that throughout the week, the whole dragon egg thing. But yeah, I mean, overall, I think it's off to a good start, just not a great start, and some pacing issues here and there. But overall, I am enjoying it. I'm loving being back in Westeros. I feel like they've stepped up a lot of things from season 1 to season 2 in terms of the cinematography. In season 1, when you had nighttime scenes, you could kind of hardly tell what was even going on at times. And based on some of the nighttime scenes we've gotten in season 2, it seems like they have fixed a good deal of those lighting issues and some of those saturation and contrast issues that were happening in a lot of the cinematography in season 1. So I feel like season 2 looks a lot better. It's a lot crisper. The sets look great. The costumes are phenomenal as always. So it really is, top quality in just about every realm. My only problem has been just a little bit of the pacing so far. And again, I have a feeling that's probably has something to do with the 8-episode count instead of 10-episode count. When you take 2 full hours of screen time away, that's a lot of time that you can flesh out things that you don't have that time for now. So the pacing issues for me have been a little bit noticeable, but it's definitely not taking me out of the story. I'm definitely still enjoying it. I'm loving, a lot of aspects of some of these characters. And episode 4 is right around the corner. And again, I really think that is going to be the big one. I think this is going to be the one that kind of brings the fandom together and sets us off for the rest of the season and all the wild and craziness that are going to be happening from episode 4 on. At least that's my hope. It looks like episode 4 is going to be phenomenal, and it's been receiving some very good early reviews. But you guys know what we're about. We want to know what you guys think in the chat as well. I want to know what you guys thought. What did you like about episode 3? What did you maybe not like about episode 3? What scenes stood out to you? We want to know what you guys thought in the chat. So make sure you sound off throughout the night. What were some of your favorite parts of episode 3? We got Betrayed King in the house. What is up, Betrayed King? Good to see you, my friend. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We got Senor in the house. What is up? Pink Dread gonna kill Vhagar easy. Yeah, Vhagar better watch out. If the Pink Dread shows up, it is game, set, match. I mean, Vhagar might be Vhagar, but the Pink Dread is the Pink Dread. Don't want to mess with the Pink Dread. We got Zachary Welch in the house. What is up, Zachary? Good to see you as well, my friend. Welcome, welcome, welcome. See Doc Hayes in the building. Welcome, welcome, Doc Hayes. Good evening to you as well, my friend. I see Vic in the house. What is up, Vic? Always good to see you, my friend. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Let me see what else we got. I see Kiwi Skirt in there as well. What is up, Kiwi Skirt? Always good to see you, my friend. The mod extraordinaire. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Got MKXD in the house. What is up, MKXD? Homies! Homies indeed. What is up to the homies? What is up? We got Jamie Bone in the house as well. What is up, Jamie Bone? Welcome, welcome. Good to have you here this evening. We got Makadiah in the house. I'm sure I butchered that. I am horrible with names, but welcome nonetheless. It is so glad to have you here. Got Bernie in the building as well. What is up, Bernie? Got Cat's Paw in the house. What is up, Cat's Paw? We haven't seen a whole lot of the Cat's Paw dagger this year. I know Aegon has it on his person. When we see Aegon dressed, he usually has the Cat's Paw dagger on him. But we haven't seen a whole lot about that in season 2 yet as well. I wonder if at one point, if some, I mean, we know Aegon is going to have the dagger on him. I thought it would be very interesting if at some point, maybe even during the Battle of Rooks Rest, we do know Aegon is going to be coming in contact with some fire, probably, with all the dragon flames that are going to be spouting around. I thought it would be a very interesting scene if they could throw it in somewhere, if Aegon maybe discovered the prophecy on the knife's blade, if the blade ends up getting heated up in the heat of combat. We haven't seen much about the Cat's Paw dagger, and I'd love to see that kind of come back into the fold. What is going to happen with the Cat's Paw dagger? We got Wazim in the house. What is up, Wazim? Good to see you as well. I see Jason Moore in the house as well. What is up, Jason? Welcome, welcome. See Henry Bemis in the house. What is up, Henry Bemis? Good to see you as well, my friend. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We've got Incognito in the house. Always good to see an Incognito. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome one, welcome all. Playing the original GoldenEye 007 as I watch our beloved stream from King Jeremy Stark, first of his name, King of the Nerds, the Geeks, and the Enjoyers, Protector of the Seven Lores. Well, thank you so much for that, MKXD. And man, it doesn't get much better than some GoldenEye 007. I still, to this day, every once in a while, will break out either my Super Nintendo and play some old Mario. I actually really need to get another Nintendo 64 because I miss so many games from 64, like GoldenEye. Yeah, good stuff. Bringing back the nostalgia. I like it. I like it. I like it. I like it. Got Camilla in the house. What is up, Camilla? Good to see you as well. Dear old gods and the new, don't let my favorite people die tomorrow in battle. Oof. I certainly hope not, Camilla. I certainly hope not. But it is getting to that time where, unfortunately, we are going to start seeing some of our favorite characters, and for me anyway, some of our favorite dragons start to perish. And that is not going to be fun to see. As much as I've been really looking forward to the big battle scenes that we're going to be getting in Season 2, there is that aspect of it as well, where we're going to start seeing some of our favorite characters and some of our favorite dragons start dropping like flies. And that is not going to be easy. That is not going to be fun. We got Leo V in the house. What is up, Leo V? Leo's got his popcorn ready. Hell yes. Get that popcorn ready, my friend. Kiwi Skirt says, not looking forward to it, but I can't wait. And that's kind of how I'm at. Exactly. It's kind of equal parts really looking forward to it and equal parts dreading it because, you know, especially us who have read the book, we kind of know what is going to be coming in some of these bigger battle scenes. So yeah, I'm right there with you, Kiwi. Really not looking forward to it, but can't wait at the same time. Love it. Love it, love it, love it. We have a super chat from Radical Z. What is up, Radical Z? Good to see you, my friend. Welcome, welcome, welcome this evening. And thank you so much for the $5 super chat. I think they cut the gullet and reduced it to 8 for this season. I feel episode 4 to 8 will make this a great season. We might get the fish feed soon. Awesome stuff. And I do think that's probably, I mean, we did hear Ryan Condal come out a few months back and say the reason why they cut it from 10 episodes to 8 episodes was strictly story driven. At least that was the original story. I remember him saying that they moved what was going to be a very big battle at the end of season 2. They have since moved it to the beginning of season 3. And I agree with you, Radical Z. I definitely get the feeling he was probably talking about the Battle of the Gullet there. Just considering where we'll be story-wise towards the end of season 2, we'll be getting very close to that kind of gullet time. So I do agree. I think that is probably the big battle he was talking about, pushing it from the end of season 2 to the beginning of season 3. And yeah, maybe that was the cause for the episode reduction. But thank you so much for the $5 super chat, my friend. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And yes, the fish feed. We could get the fish feed soon as well. And that's the thing about the Dance of the Dragons. There's so many freaking battles that we have to get through. And I obviously, though, probably won't show every single battle on screen. Obviously, we got a very condensed version of the Battle of the Burning Mill in this episode where it skipped right over it. So I do think some of the battles will probably be reduced to that, just because considering the sheer number of battles that happens during the Dance of the Dragons, it's going to be near impossible for them to showcase every single battle on screen. So as much as I'd want to see all of them, we probably will get some other Burning Mill kind of condensed versions like we got in episode 3 as well. But the big ones we will definitely see. The Gullets, the Tumbletons, the God's Eye, Rook's Rest. We will certainly be getting the big ones, I have a feeling. And we also have a gifted membership from Kiwi Skirt. 5 gifted memberships from the awesome Kiwi Skirt. Thank you so much, Kiwi, for the gifted memberships. Looks like Henry Bemis is now a member. BB is now a member. Jamie Bone is now a member. Quiet on the Set is now a member. And Star is also now a member. Welcome one, welcome all. So glad to have each and every one of here, and you both deserve a well-earned whoa. Cover your ears, folks.
Whoa!
Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you, guys. Thank you for the super chat, and thank you for the gifted memberships. Very much appreciate it. Very much appreciate it. Good stuff, good stuff. Let's see who else we got in the chat before we start diving into all of this awesomeness. I see Jam in the house. What is up, Jam? Good to see you as well, my friend. See Rooftop Korean in the building. What is up, Rooftop Korean? We got we got BB in the house. What is up, BB? Good to see you as well. And if I did miss anybody, I am terribly sorry. But welcome one, welcome all. I see my good pal Crazy Mad down there as well. Let me skip down to the bottom, see if I can see anyone I missed. Let's see who else we got. We see the Crymen's Ace. What is up? Good to see you as well. I see Kimmy in the house. What is up, Kimmy? Good to see you. See Shelly in the house as well. What is up, Shelly? I see Divine Chakra, who is throwing up a battle I very much am looking forward to. The Butcher's Ball. Hell yes. I cannot wait till we get to the friggin' Butcher's Ball. The Winter Wolves, Sir Crispin, Red Rob Rivers. That is what I want to see. Got Jess in the house as well. What is up, Jess? Good to see you as well, my friend. And welcome one, welcome all. And of course, again, throughout the night, we want to know what were some of your favorite scenes from episode 3. That is what I want to know throughout the night. Did you guys have a favorite scene overall from episode 3? And if you did, what exactly was your favorite scene? Sound off in the chat. I want to know. And I want to know on the panel as well. Did you guys have a favorite scene in particular from episode 3? And while I give you guys a minute to think of it, I will kick it off with, of course, I think I've said this in our previous stream, but for me, I really enjoyed the Damon stuff at Harrenhal, in particular the trippy, weird stuff with Damon. It was really cool to see Damon in a vulnerable spot like that. Damon is one of these characters where he seems to always have his wits about him. He's always in control. Even when he's losing control of his emotions, he's always in control of the situation that he's in. And it was really interesting to see Damon just completely out of control in this scene for one of the first times ever. So I feel like the Damon stuff at Harrenhal, in particular, the stuff with Alice Rivers, was very interesting. And we'll play that clip one more time for people who maybe weren't here at the beginning.
Always coming and going, aren't you? And I have to clean up afterwards.
You will die in this place.
Whew. You will die in this place. Now, everything about that I really did enjoy. Again, that was definitely some of my favorite parts of episode 3. I love seeing Harrenhal in its state, and I feel like in House of the Dragon, we're really actually getting a sense of what Harrenhal is really supposed to be. I feel like in Game of Thrones, Harrenhal didn't really come across as massive as it is described in the books, anyway. But House of the Dragon has definitely kind of depicted it as this big freaking ruin, much like I pictured it in the books when I'm reading. But I really like this scene overall in particular. It starts off where we have Daemon kind of hearing this shaking at the door. And one thing I noticed right off the bat, usually I don't catch these kind of things until my second watch, when I watch the episode a second time. But right off the bat, when I was watching this episode for the first time, I noticed under the door that starts kind of, it seems like someone's on the other side of it trying to get in. And this is one thing we were all kind of wondering coming out of this episode is what is causing these visions for Daemon? Is it the curse of Harrenhal itself getting into the head of Daemon? I saw a lot of people thinking it was that. Is it Alice Rivers herself? Is she the one inducing these dreams and these hallucinations to screw with Daemon in some way? Or is it potentially even the Weirwood? Is this a Weirwood-induced dream? As Daemon does kind of wake up out there right in front of the heart tree at Harrenhal, the Weirwood heart tree. And Weirwoods have been known to induce visions in the past for many, many characters. So it was very interesting trying to decipher what exactly was causing these dreams and hallucinations to begin with. And one thing I noticed was at least whoever was screwing with Daemon on the other side of this door was no curse of Harrenhal. This was definitely very much a person, because if we look at the bottom of the door, we see some light. And then one frame later, we can see feet walking up to the door and standing right in front of the door. So this was definitely a person screwing with Daemon, at least as far as the door goes. It was definitely a person, most likely Alice Rivers. I think she is the most likely candidate. But I would love to get everybody's opinion on this in the chat and on the panel as well. What do you guys think were causing these visions for Daemon? Do you think it could have been just the haunted castle of Harrenhal itself? Is it the Weirwood tree? Is it Alice? Or is this just Daemon's subconscious maybe starting to feel guilty for some of his past deeds?
I think it's a combination of all of them. I think Harrenhal is it's steeped in death, right? And it's been cursed by his ancestor. I mean, everybody burned alive, and that essence is there. And so I think there's kind of a spiritual quality to it, and that adds to the hauntingness. So how much of it is that Daemon knows that, and it's in his head, and it eats at your subconscious. That's what your subconscious does, right? When it's left alone, it likes to play, and maybe it's partly that. Maybe it's partly, just the building itself. But I think it's a combination of everything in my own mind as I'm looking at it. There's just enough mysticism that you're left to wonder.
Yeah, they leave it just ambiguous enough, so you're kind of wondering what exactly is causing this. But what about you, Snug? You think it's one in particular, or you think it's a combination?
I'd say it's a combination. The one part I probably would lean against would be any conscience that he has, because he hasn't shown really any conscience for anything that he's done throughout the series. So I think it's the Weirwood in particular. Maybe Alice Rivers, although I don't know. Is this the first time that she's appeared? I don't remember
Yes,
seeing
this is
her
the
before.
first scene we've seen Allison. Yeah.
So since I don't know that she necessarily knows him that well, I'm not sure how much she would go into it, but I would lean on the Weirwood
Okay.
myself.
Interesting. What about you, Kayla? Do you what do you think is causing Damon's psychosis in this episode?
I think it's a combination of everything too, but I lean more towards the Weirwood, and the reason why is just because of the 13 slashes that he makes
Yes.
and the
Yeah.
role that they play later on down the line, if they're going to tie that part of the books into it. And just because the link to Dark Sister and Blood Raven, I like to look at things through like the book perspective in certain aspects in hopes of things that they'll do in different spin-off series in the future. So yeah, I think it's possibly that, because there's a saying that Dark Sister is made for more nobler tasks and than like slaughtering sheep or like cutting the weirwood, that she has a thirst for blood. So
Oh, yeah, interesting. And I get the feeling we will get that very famous Damon slashing of the Weirwood tree a little bit later on when we get closer to that event actually happening. I'd be surprised if they don't include that scene in the show. I feel like this was definitely a little bit of a precursor and a setup to that, indeed, especially when you hear the Alice Rivers kind of very ominous foreshadowing. But yeah, no, I kind of went back and forth on it myself, where at times I think it was kind of just solely Alice, and then when you see Damon wake up right in front of that weirwood tree, it's there's definitely plenty of evidence pointing to it being the weirwood itself inducing this dream, and then the curse of Harrenhal the Black. Of course, Harrenhal is a massively cursed castle. It seems ever since the days of Aegon the Conqueror, like you mentioned, all this the entire line of Harren the Black got ended in a single night in just a few hours. So that much death, that much destruction, it seeps into the land. It seeps into the surrounding earth. So yeah, I could totally believe that it could be the curse of Harrenhal itself. So yeah, all good. And I like how the show kind of leaves it a little bit ambiguous. The actress playing Alice Rivers did mention that she is going to be displaying some kind of level of power over some of the characters on the show, in particular Damon. So hearing that statement definitely kind of leads me to believe it's a little bit more Alice Rivers. But yeah, I love how the show kind of leaves it a little bit ambiguous. Leo thinks it is Alice as well. Awesome. Betrayed King says it's Larry's Fireflies. Just saying hello. Or yeah, maybe it's just the Wi-Fi. Maybe it is just the bad Wi-Fi, as Rockets LA says. It could be. Could just be the bad Wi-Fi. The Curse of Harren the Black says Radical Z. Yeah, not the haunted Wi-Fi, right? Just not the haunted Wi-Fi. Jamie Bone thinks it is all three, the Harrenhal, the Weirwoods, and Alice. Awesome. Tomorrow we ride, says Ando. Yes, we do. Tomorrow we ride. And of course, tomorrow, like I usually do, right around 2 hours or so before the episode airs, so that will be around 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I will be doing a pregame show tomorrow like I usually do. So definitely come and hang out with us tomorrow and kill some time while we wait for the new episode to load up. MKXD says, I believe it's Harrenhal's curse. Why would the spirits of Harrenhal and his family and followers let the descendants of the guy who roasted them have a good sleep? Now, this is a very good point. This is actually a very good point. Yes, Daemon is, of course, the ancestor of Aegon the Conqueror. And yeah, you got this guy's ancestor in your house. I wouldn't let him have a good night's sleep either. So that's a good point, MKXD. It's a very good point. It's Bran messing with Daemon. Yeah, it's Bran from all the way in his Weirwood throne at the end of Game of Thrones, screwing with Daemon. Awesome stuff. Kiwi says, I feel like it was the Harrenhal's curse, but also some of his own feelings coming out. And I do think there's a little bit of that aspect to it as well. And whereas, like you said, Snug, Daemon has kind of portrayed himself where he doesn't seem to have a whole lot of that kind of feelings and consciousness. We don't often see him feeling bad for really anything he's done. And I think this is actually one of the first times we've ever actually seen Daemon maybe feel a little bit of regret and a little bit of remorse for some of the things that he's done. In particular, the blood and cheese setup.
Mhm.
And I really feel like in this vision in particular, I feel like Damon had to see it. He had to see what he caused with his own eyes. It's one thing to know that your orders caused the death of a child, but to actually see it with your own eyes is way different than just hearing about it. So I think it really took Damon actually having to see this poor child's head getting sewed on by a young Rhaenyra, who I'm sure he has plenty of guilt of with she's concerned, in and of herself. But I really feel like with Damon, this blood and cheese moment didn't really hit him. I feel like it didn't really impact him until this scene, until he actually saw the damage with his own eyes and realized just what exactly he caused. Because then we actually kind of do see a very look of kind of remorse on Damon's face. His eyes start tearing up. We never see Damon tear up. So I feel like, yes, he is one of these characters who doesn't showcase a whole lot of emotion. He doesn't seem to feel bad for just about anything that he's done. And I think this is one of the first times that we actually get to see the vulnerable side of Damon, where you strip back that facade, and you're left with just the man. And I really feel like once he saw the severed head of Jaehaerys, it really hit Damon in this moment. And I feel like he did kind of feel bad, maybe for the first time ever on the series even. So I like that scene. I thought this was a good scene.
Yeah.
And I don't know about anybody else, but when I was watching this portion of the vision in particular, Damon walking into this room, seeing a young Rhaenyra, it instantly reminded me of Game of Thrones and Daenerys' trip to the House of the Undying, when she kind of gets into the House of the Undying and starts having some very weird visions. She sees Khal Drogo with their son who was actually born. So I really feel like this sequence, the entire sequence, really reminded me of Dany in the House of the Undying. I got very much Dany flashbacks. And it was pretty cool to see young Rhaenyra again. I didn't think we'd see her again for a very long time, if at all. And I actually am hearing some rumors that there might be one more young Rhaenyra flashback in this season. So that might not be the only cameo we get from Millie Alcock. But it was nice to see young Rhaenyra again. I feel like younger Rhaenyra and Damon shared a connection, bond, whatever you want to call it. I feel like younger Rhaenyra and Damon had a much different relationship than older Rhaenyra and Damon do. I just feel like there's a different aspect going on there. Where young Rhaenyra definitely felt like, she could save Damon. Damon, obviously she was attracted to him, but I feel like, even Rhaenyra, older Rhaenyra says it. When she was younger, she thought she took it as a challenge to try and hopefully get through and help and save Damon. But I feel like there was just a different aspect there. I don't know why. Whenever I see younger Rhaenyra and Damon scenes compared to the older Rhaenyra and Damon scenes, there just seems like there's a different dynamic there. But yeah, I really love the Harrenhal scenes. This stuff was really fun to watch. Really fun to watch. Let's see what else we got. And then I definitely want to hear from you guys in the chat and on the panel as well in terms of what were some of your favorite standout scenes from the episode. I think Damon going to Harrenhal and revisiting the atrocities of his family is making him realize he's also been acting similarly. That could be it as well. I mean, seeing the damage of Harrenhal, seeing what his ancestor did with Balerion, maybe it is helping Damon reflect on some of his own misdeeds. Maybe it is. Maybe it is. I agree. I think it's a combination of a lot of things. That's why it was so powerful. I think this show is trying not to lean too hard into the supernatural. And I definitely get that sense as well, Ty. And when you think about the Dance with the Dragons as a whole, there isn't a whole lot of magical aspects to this story, where Game of Thrones, the main A Song of Ice and Fire story, it is very much steeped in magic. There's magic all over the place in the books. But when it comes to the Dance of the Dragons, there's not a whole lot of big magical aspects going on there. I mean, yes, you have Alice Rivers, who's very much capable of displaying some supernatural abilities at times. She sees visions in the flames like Melisandre did. But in terms of the magical aspect, yes, I think we are going to see a much more grounded show overall with House of the Dragon compared to Game of Thrones, that led a little bit heavier into the magic, for sure. For sure. But I want to hear from you guys in the chat and on the panel as well. Aldous, I'll start with you. Did you have a favorite scene from episode 3?
I did. And ladies, put your earmuffs on because there's going to be some misogyny coming out here.
Ooh.
The ending, where this entire thing, thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of men are going to die because of one woman misunderstanding
Misinterpreting
what
a
was
dream.
misinterpreting a dream, and then having such ego that she can't admit she was wrong. That's what everything comes down to. One moment in this, a woman being unable to admit that she was wrong. If that's two dudes like, yeah, he said this. He's like, no, bro, no, that's like a family story, dude. The other guy would go like, oh shit, I'm sorry, and they'd hug it out and it'd be all over. Not women.
Or they'd fight it out themselves.
Yeah, I loved this scene. This was actually one of the scenes that was met with a lot of criticism, at least in my comment section. I had a lot of comments in my episode 3 review of people really disliking this scene, which is cool. It's totally understandable. All opinions are welcome here. We want to know what you guys liked, and we want to know what you guys didn't like. But for me, I really enjoyed this scene. I feel like, yes, where we did kind of get this big revelation where Alicent, for the first time, is maybe realizing that how much of a mess up, how big she screwed up. And I love the look on Rhaenyra's face as soon as she hears the whole prince that was promised and knows that this was Aegon the Conqueror that Viserys was talking about. You see that just look on Rhaenyra's face. The light bulb goes off. Because for Rhaenyra, I have to imagine this is kind of some form of validation for her as well. Even though Alicent is telling her that Viserys changed his mind, even though Rhaenyra probably doesn't believe her, there had to be at least a very small part in Rhaenyra's mind that thought, maybe Alicent is telling the truth. Maybe Viserys did choose Aegon in those final hours. But hearing this, I feel like it was that confirmation and that validation that Rhaenyra needed to hear to know that Viserys didn't pass me over in his final moments. This was all just one huge misunderstanding from Alicent completely misinterpreting Viserys' final words. And then where Alicent is concerned, I feel like this is going to completely change her fundamentally from top to bottom. So much of Alicent, her character, her motivations, a lot of it seems to be tied to her faith, and that she always feels like faithfully she is doing the right thing. She's making the right choice. She's putting Aegon above Rhaenyra because she genuinely thought Viserys wanted it this way. But hearing this, having that little bit of seed of doubt planted into Alicent's brain, I think this is going to really screw with her. I think I'm really looking forward to seeing where that seed goes for the rest of the series. Is how is this guilt going to screw with Alicent when she kind of comes to term with the fact that all of this maybe happened because she misinterpreted a dream?
Not may have, did.
Did.
There's no possible or did it. It did. It's all her fault.
But wasn't it? I mean, I kind of, and maybe I misinterpreted it. I took it as that she was looking for a reason to not give up the throne, and that I mean, she has to have heard that story before. I mean, if Viserys told her,
it's only told.
No, only Targaryens.
The thing with that story is Viserys only tells it to his heir. It's a secret kept throughout House Targaryen that is only told from king to heir. Alicent would have known nothing about the prophecy, whereas Rhaenyra would have heard it.
Right, but wasn't her father whispering in her ear to figure out a way to basically keep the kingship or to pass the kingship to her own son as opposed to giving it to Rhaenyra?
That's a good point.
First season.
No, that's actually a good point, Snug. I mean, even though Alicent did misinterpret this dream at the end of the day, whether Alicent was going to agree with it or not, it seemed like the Greens and Otto already had made up their mind that they were going to overthrow Rhaenyra, regardless of what Alicent thought. So that's a good point. It might have not have made as big a difference in the long run as we thought. It would have it does with Alicent's character, but it seems like Otto and the Greens, they already had made up their decision long before that, so much to the point where they were plotting behind Alicent's back, as we find out in season 1. Right after Viserys dies, we have that Green Council, and Alicent's looking around like she doesn't know what the heck's going on, and then she gets it revealed to her that Otto and the rest of the council had been kind of plotting even behind Alicent's back because they thought Alicent wouldn't go along with it. So that's a good point. Even though this misinterpretation was definitely on Alicent's part, and definitely probably was a factor into Aegon becoming king over Rhaenyra, you make a good point that Otto kind of already had his mind made up that Rhaenyra was not going to ascend to the throne. So that's a good point. That is a good point. That is a good point. But I really enjoyed the scene. I thought some nice revelations were laid bare, and again, just the seeds of doubt that it's going to plant in Alicent's head. That's what I'm looking forward to seeing how this kind of plays out over the next few episodes. Is Alicent going to start having these moments of doubt where she really starts thinking, "Holy crap! Did I make a major mistake by propping up Aegon?" And I think she will. I think that guilt will set in for Alicent for sure. For sure.
Yeah. This was honestly my favorite part of the show. The
Okay.
end, surprisingly. Just seeing, like, because I'm so, like, book reader, you know? I just thought that the acting here was phenomenal. And I appreciated just... I'm sorry. Give me 1 second. I have to be right back. Sorry.
Yep.
Oh, no problem. No problemo. No
I can
problemo.
give my scene while they're waiting. I think it was the short scene where Rhaenyra and is it Rhaenyra's? There's too many AEs and RHs and Ys for me to keep these names straight.
They need to pick some new
If you're
letters.
thinking about one of Daemon's daughters, it's Rhaena and Baela. If you're thinking about one of the
No.
daughters.
It was Rhaenyra's, or it was
Rhaenyra and Rhaenys?
yes. The older
Okay.
sister. When they're talking, and the older sister is pointing out that it's not that whatever immediate thing that they're saying is going to war. It's like it wasn't necessarily that. There were plenty of other decision points prior to that have kind of led them to the point where they're at war. And any one of those points, if they had done something differently, or at least that's my interpretation of it, is that that maybe they wouldn't be at this point if they were making better decisions.
Right.
Oh, okay. All right. Awesome. And one thing I really enjoyed is the relationship that Rhaenyra and Rhaenys have kind of cultivated over those last few episodes in season 1, and here even more so here in season 2. Whereas when we look at the ground that these two characters started on, they were very much on opposite ends of the spectrum. They were not friends at all. Rhaenys very much had it in her mind that Rhaenyra and Daemon had something to do with Laenor's death. Even though Laenor isn't really dead, Rhaenys is still under the presumption that he is dead. So yeah, it was really interesting to see where their relationship started, having this really kind of enmity towards each other, or at least Rhaenys had it towards Rhaenyra. Maybe it wasn't, reciprocated where Rhaenyra is concerned, but Rhaenys very much had a lot of disdain for Rhaenyra and Daemon at first, and slowly but surely over the these last few episodes, we have seen Rhaenys really become a champion of Rhaenyra. And they become kind of close friends, so much to the point where we get that one scene in the Black Council chamber where all of Rhaenyra's bannermen are urging her to war. They're all urging her to take action. And she gets up and leaves, and then we see Rhaenys get up and kind of checks the entire council. Like, you guys would do well to remember that Rhaenyra wears the crown of, Jaehaerys the Conciliator. So I really like the relationship that's kind of built up here between Rhaenyra and Rhaenys, where they started off on very rocky ground, but now Rhaenys is one of Rhaenyra's biggest supporters. So I like the relationship that is cultivated there between these two. That was good. That was good. Let's see what else you guys are saying in the chat. And of course, definitely let us know some of your favorite scenes from episode 3 throughout the night. I hate Alicent. She's such a hypocrite. And I definitely feel like we are seeing a little bit more of that this season in particular, where the hypocrisy of Alicent in particular is definitely being kind of laid bare. Whereas in season 1, Alicent was very judgmental towards Rhaenyra in terms of everything that Rhaenyra was doing, both young Rhaenyra and older Rhaenyra. And now here we are in season 2. Alicent is pretty much doing all of the things that she condemned Rhaenyra for doing in season 1. So we are definitely seeing that hypocrisy play out a lot in season 2 where Alicent is concerned. Definitely. Definitely. Viserys did mention it to her at the fire pit, I think, at Aegon's second birthday. He didn't tell her everything, just enough to let her know that Rhaenyra wasn't lying. Well, that's the thing. I remember that scene in particular, and he barely says anything in that scene. I don't think he says nearly enough to Alicent in that scene. I mean, maybe in hindsight, with Rhaenyra giving Alicent the extra information about this whole Prince that was promised prophecy, maybe putting both of those data points together, maybe that will lead Alicent to believe that Rhaenyra was telling the truth. So, in a sense, yeah, maybe you are right. But I do, yeah, I remember that scene where, freaking Viserys was hammered in that scene too. He's hammered in front of the fire. He's talking about Aegon the Conqueror. I lifted up our son and placed him upon the Iron Throne. So yeah, in hindsight, actually, no, that's actually a good point, Misty. Now that I think about it, maybe that is the kind of little bit of a data point that Alicent needed to hear in order to know that Rhaenyra is telling the truth here. So that's actually a good point, Misty. That is a good point. I like that. Bro, will Aemond as a relationship with Helena has a relationship with Helena? This has been a big theory as well. I've seen a lot of this theory kind of gain a lot of steam over these last few episodes, in particular, where some people were thinking that maybe Aemond was the father of Helena's children. And I just don't think that's the case personally. I haven't really seen any evidence to back it up personally. As interesting as a theory as it could be, I just haven't seen any evidence to back it up myself. But who knows? I saw a lot of people thinking that maybe that Helena's children were Aemond's. But I haven't really seen a whole lot of evidence to back that up. But who knows? You never know what the show is going to do compared to the book. And speaking of other theories, I also saw a lot of theories where some people were suggesting that maybe Sir Crispin Cole himself might be the father of Daeron the Daring. But again, I think that's also another highly unlikely situation. I guess we'll find out when we see Daeron the Daring. If he has Targaryen features, I feel like that instantly pokes holes in the theory that Crispin is really his father. So I think they are just fan theories that probably aren't going to go anywhere, but could be interesting. The scene when Bela almost got crispy was cool. Hell freaking yes. And that was actually my second favorite scene in the entire episode. And we're definitely going to touch a little bit more on that here in a minute as well. Definitely going to touch on that. The show actively absolves her of any guilt. In terms of Rhaenyra, yes. Yes. In terms of, anyone who has read Fire and Blood, I think it's very safe to say that Fire and Blood portrays Rhaenyra in a much more savage light, where Rhaenyra does some pretty dark and despicable things sometimes in Fire and Blood. Whereas on the show, they are kind of giving her that layer of separation from some of these more nasty events like Blood and Cheese and some of the other ones. We look at the death of Vaemon Velaryon in season 1 and the vast difference from the show to how it's portrayed in the book. It does seem like they are portraying Rhaenyra at certain times to give her, a layer of separation between the dark deeds that Daemon does and her being responsible for them. So a little bit of a change, but I think it's an interesting one. Let's see what else we got. The show has proven unequivocally it is pro-black. And this has been a big talking point recently as well, where a lot of people have been wondering, where is the show going to lead? Is it going to be pro-black? Is it going to be pro-green? And a lot of people seem to think that the show is leaning a little bit more pro-black. Which is interesting. I feel like at times it does both, but it's hard to deny that sometimes it paints, in particular, Rhaenyra in a more favorable light than she was in the book. But I guess that's another interesting question that we can kind of dive into a little bit here. Do you think the show is a little bit more pro-black? Do you think it's more pro-green? Or do you think they are trying to remain neutral?
I think season 1 was... excuse me. I think season 1 was a little bit more pro-green. I mean, it showed that in how it laid everything out, and now they've kind of flipped the script, so to speak. And yeah, this one's leaning more pro-black, but what it is, I mean, you're talking like one standard deviation, right? Like the first season kind of leaned a little bit pro-green, this one's leaning a little bit pro-black. I think that works with how they've constructed the storytelling.
Okay, interesting. Interesting. Okay, I can dig it. I can dig it. Sea Smoke probably got restless because Laenor just died. Yes, we did see that scene in this episode as well. It's just a really quick throwaway line, but we do get that line from Rhaenyra stating that Sea Smoke has become restless as of late, and we can't know why. And yeah, I mean, I really hope that's not the only thing we're going to get on Sea Smoke. I really hope if Sea Smoke is becoming restless because Laenor did really die somewhere in Essos, I hope we get a little bit more confirmation than just that. If that is the only confirmation we're getting, I feel like that's a little bit weak. I feel like that's a little bit too ambiguous. But yes, at least we did get some kind of acknowledgement towards Sea Smoke and Sea Smoke's behavior, because that has been a big question on a lot of book readers' minds going into season 2, as in terms of how is Sea Smoke going to get claimed with Laenor still alive. And yeah, maybe that was hinting at that. Maybe that was hinting at that. Let's see what else we got. Allison has done many things wrong. This ain't one of them. Ooh, interesting. Interesting take. I think Allison has done many things wrong. Many things indeed.
Yeah, and I think her faith is. I kind of take her faith as a little phony, that she's putting on an act, or because she's doing plenty that what I would assume would be against her faith. But that's a good cover to go and light candles, every day or whatever, for whatever reason.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I have to imagine Allison is walking around with a lot of guilt in terms of even from some of her, childhood acts with, you think about the splitting of her and Rhaenyra, where they start off as the best of friends. And then all of a sudden, Allison is marrying Rhaenyra's father, and Allison doesn't even tell her. Rhaenyra has to, find that out with everybody else. Didn't give her a heads up or anything like that. And that really kind of, I get the feeling that guilt Allison has probably carried for, her whole life ever since that moment. But yes, Allison has made many mistakes. Many, many mistakes for sure. Rainey's also wears the crown for best salty woman too. She does. She's good. Rainey, Rainey knows how to throw the salt. She knows how to throw it around for sure. For sure. The Greens are usurpers no matter how or to who you look at it. The only one who was initially truthful about it was Aegon himself. But now he doesn't really give a damn. He likes the lies. Yeah, we did see that kind of change in Aegon, didn't we? Whereas at the beginning, Aegon didn't even want to be king. He wanted nothing to do with this. And Aegon is very much the same way in the book as well, where even in the book, Aegon says, he doesn't want to steal his sister's throne. And it's not until Alicent kind of convinces him that Rhaenyra will kill him and his whole line if he doesn't, because you're a threat to her. So Alicent definitely has a much more direct hand on things in the book. But yeah, no, I mean, it's hard to deny that. Aegon started off, he didn't even want the freaking job. And now he's slowly but surely, he is definitely settling into it a little bit more. For sure. Rhaenys wears the crown for Queen of Defeatism. Oof. Oof, oof, oof. We got King Scotto in the house. What is up, King Scotto? The war finally begins. It does. It does. I think some people will be satisfied with Rhaenys and Meleys after tomorrow's episode. Oof, indeed. I guess it depends on if you're a fan of Rhaenys and Meleys or not. So yeah, I guess a lot of stuff is going to be happening. Episode 4 is definitely going to be a catalyst for the rest of the story, and definitely a turning point as well. Whereas if the book is any guide, this episode, this battle in particular, is definitely going to shape the remainder of the series for a good while anyway. We're going to see some pieces fall into place, some pieces fall out of place, and we'll definitely have a much different dynamic going forward after the Battle of Rooks Rest. Things are just going to be much different after this event, considering how much it changes the trajectory of things in the book. I imagine it's going to be similar on the show, where it's going to change things in many different ways. Many different ways. I heard a theory that Helena is pregnant currently with Maelor. Ooh, interesting. Interesting. I have not heard that myself, but I suppose anything is possible. We did get that confirmation from Ryan Condal a little while back, stating that Maelor doesn't exist yet in this timeline. And he used the word yet. He didn't say Maelor doesn't exist. He said Maelor doesn't exist yet, were his exact words. And maybe that's a hint, Radical Z. Maybe Helena's already pregnant with Maelor. Who knows? Who knows? It's very weird to cut out Maelor. I know he's not a major character by any means, but even George R. R. Martin kind of remarked and started and called him Maelor the Missing, which was pretty funny, I thought. But yeah, I guess we'll see. I guess we'll see if Maelor will end up making an appearance on the show. I'm not sure. I am not sure. Let's see what else we got. Scrolling down. I hope they do bring in Maelor. George didn't seem too happy. Calling him Maelor the Missing. Yep, yeah. I thought it was funny. I thought it was a really good nickname. I'm going to start calling him Maelor the Missing myself now. It was just a good dubbing. But yeah, George had a lot of things to say in one of his recent Nada blogs. He praised a lot of the acting and a lot of the actors in the cast of House of the Dragon in terms of some of the characters kind of going above and beyond their book counterparts. I know he was really praising Fia Saban's performance as Helena, how they really fleshed, or at least they're starting to anyway, flesh Helena out a little bit more on the show than in the book. In the book, we don't learn a whole lot about Helena. We get the dreaded blood and cheese moment very early on. But after that, Helena remains pretty much secluded within the Red Keep and doesn't really do much. Whereas on the show, they're giving her these dragon dream aspects, which I think will continue throughout the show. So yeah, they're fleshing some of these characters out a little bit more on the show than they were in even the book. And I know George has been a little bit happy about that. But he did also mention something about Maelor the Missing. And he says, I believe his words were, "There's too much to talk about now, maybe in a future post," I believe. But yeah, I mean, it must be very weird at times seeing, the book you created, the characters that you created, in the creative control of somebody else. It must be fun at times to see how these things get adapted and seeing some of these characters in live action on screen for the first time, knowing that they were your creations. But at times, being George R. R. Martin, being the author of all these things, it must be a little bit weird at times to know that, your babies are in other creative control at times. But overall, it seems like George is liking House of the Dragon so far. Seems like he is liking it. Sorry. Did George finish Winds of Winter? Your guess is as good as mine. Your guess is as good as mine.
I'm just going to go out on a limb and say no.
Yeah, I mean, we've been waiting, 13 years now for Winds of Winter. It's been quite a while. There were those rumors that were coming out a few weeks ago of this email that apparently got intercepted that stated that a prominent New Mexico author was holding some kind of big party at his house to release the upcoming to celebrate the upcoming release of his long-awaited book. And apparently there was even a dragon cake rumored to be served at the party. That led a lot of people to instantly think that maybe Winds of Winter was on the way. I don't know. Until I see it, I'm not going to believe any rumors or any updates. Until I actually see it on shelves, that is when I will get excited. But anything before then, I just feel like we've been let down too many times. I mean, as much as I really love George and respect him, and I know it's not easy to weave these kind of tales that are so intricate and have so many characters and story points to get through, I don't envy his job in any way, shape, or form. But on the other hand, he's promised us this book many times, and every time he's promised it, he has failed to deliver. So until I see it on shelves, I'm not going to get too excited.
So the question is was that just Cormac McCarthy releasing a new book and doing a dragon cake just to troll the world?
Dead though?
It could have been. It very well could have been. I mean, that's just as likely as it being Wins at this point, I suppose. Just as likely as it being Wins.
Yes, Nugs, he is dead. He died last year. But I wouldn't put it past him.
He can still do it. I mean, Tolkien's still producing books, right?
Right, exactly. Wow.
The Tolkien estate is, anyway.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed. Indeed. Let's see what else we got. I don't think Alicent and Cole were involved that way back when Daron was born, in my opinion. And he wasn't actually. I'm glad you brought that up, Kiwi, which reminds me, I totally forgot. Ryan Condal actually did come out recently, and he confirmed that the Alicent and Cole affair is new. It's recent. It's something that hasn't been going on for too long. Ryan Condal did confirm that. So I guess that does kind of poke holes in the theory that Crispin could be Daron's father. Because thank you for reminding me. Yeah, Ryan Condal did actually mention that the Alicent Cole relationship is a little bit new. It's something that hasn't been going on for too long. So yes, that is a good point. They haven't been bumping uglies for that long.
Gotcha. On that topic, I had a question for you and Kayla and your thoughts on it, because it shows that Aegon's promoted his buddies up to the Kingsguard now, right?
Oh
And
God.
they're
Right.
laughing and joking and reveling. And Cole kind of lays down the law, like, well, you've got the, and they're like, yeah, okay, man. Do you think the sign of amoral people that have no honor coming into the Kingsguard, is that a reflection? Is that a suggestion of what's to come?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
Yes, I do.
Absolutely.
You
100%.
take this one,
Yeah.
Kayla.
Me? I take this
Yeah.
one? No.
Yeah, go ahead.
All you.
What do you mean
think
I
about the new King? Well, what do you think about the new Kingsguard members as a whole?
They're a joke. They're literally just put into the role because they're his friends.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
They don't
Absolutely.
have any vows. They're not upholding anything that's integral. So, yeah.
They
pretty
can't
much.
even stand guard. They're sitting on the freaking stairs, for crying out loud. I mean, they're the worst Kingsguard in the history of the Kingsguard, probably.
They're not who Visenya would have chosen.
No, definitely not.
So it's kind of I think it's reflective as Aegon being king. Like he's kind of
Well, and that's the next question
unworthy of
is it
it
a
in
reflection
that
of
aspect.
Aegon being king, or is it a reflection of Cole eschewing his duties?
It's both.
Both. That's a good
I think
point.
it's
I mean,
both.
and we do. It is both. We do hear Sir Auric, but before he met his untimely demise, Sir Auric even brought up to Cole, "How come you haven't assigned Helena a guard yet?" You know, every royal member has one sworn shield, and Helena apparently was never assigned a sworn shield. And even Auric brings that up to Crispin in episode 2. Why haven't you assigned Helena a sworn shield yet? So that's a good question, all this. I do think it's a reflection on Aegon's rule as a whole, but yes, it is also a reflection on Crispin's negligence in managing the Kingsguard.
Right.
Gotcha.
Without doubt.
Well, I also think too, like how the knights they made the joke, like a vow of chastity, whatever the case. They're joking about, and
Yeah,
Aegon
the
like
white
gives the
cloak.
look and everything. And how is Aegon fitting in Aegon the Conqueror's armor? He's supposed to be like massive. I thought. I was wondering, like they had to like tailor it down.
Yeah, they took it a little bit. Yeah.
They had
Yeah.
to, and then
That was my assumption of why they were fitting him with it.
next
Was
thing
it
you know,
modified for him?
he's taking him to the brothel.
I mean, I have a big problem with the armor in general. It shouldn't be there. There should not be there should not be a full set of Valyrian steel armor. That is not something Aegon ever had. And even George mentioned this in one of his recent statements, where he said, in particular, that a full suit of Valyrian armor would cost more than a kingdom. Nobody has that, is what George said. There is one rumor in the book, a rumor anyway, that Euron Greyjoy found Valyrian steel armor, but it's never really confirmed. But it's just that was a little bit weird. I mean, again, this is the show continuity; it's not book continuity, so we can expect to see some changes like that. But I just thought it was weird. I mean, why are you giving this guy a full suit of Valyrian steel armor? Where something that even the author kind of, shook his head at, I guess.
There's a lot of Valyrian steel everywhere within the show. If you notice it, like in the background of certain places, they have Valyrian steel weaved into almost everything. And it's supposed to be like pretty rare.
Well, it's the same as like Marvel Comics with adamantium, right? Like it's
Mhm.
supposed to be rare, and then by 10 issues later, it's everywhere because it's
Mhm.
cool. Everybody wants it. So I kind of just take it as the same way that they took something and just kind
Yeah.
of ran with it, and it's it's
Yeah.
more present than it should be, and it kind of it loses some of
But
the luster.
to me, it's like, if that's the point, like, I think it's kind of odd because, Valyrian steel swords are so sought after. You could take any of that shit around and find someone, figure out a way to make your own blade then. If that's the case, if
Mm.
there's that much of it lingering. That's just
Well, like Camilla
me
brings up,
being a
maybe they
nitpicker.
just yeah, maybe they just remove the breastplate stretcher at the end of the day. Maybe they just remove the breastplate stretcher. Go find the breastplate stretcher. Man, good. Man, that's just good old Game of Thrones. Was there anything better than season 1 of Game of Thrones?
No.
I find a hard time finding anything that was better than that very first season of Game of Thrones. I mean, the cast, the writing, just Mark Addy as Robert Baratheon is worth that season in and of itself.
Yes.
So yes, Camilla, that's a good point. Maybe they just couldn't find the breastplate stretcher. Yeah.
Well, they removed all the swords for him, so
They did. They might have. They might have removed all the
he
swords so
didn't
Robert doesn't
freaking
fall.
die into
Cut
it.
himself. But this is another good point as well. Team Green is in shambles. Some bums. Otto and Larry's were the only competents, and I feel like we are starting to see a little bit of that kind of dynamic play out a little bit now that Otto isn't in King's Landing. Now that he isn't there to kind of guide things as much as he could anyway, we're really starting to see that the Greens are very, very discombobulated. There's a lot of um, they're not very cohesive on the side of the Greens, and the Blacks have their problems as well. We are seeing Damon and Rhaenyra have a little bit of, they're having some fights in terms of how to approach the war and yada yada. But in terms of the Greens are practically in shambles at this point, and Otto leaving only made it that much worse. And I wonder how that is going to continue to play out throughout the rest of the season, because Cole is just not Hand of the King material.
Well, you know what I think? I think tomorrow is going to change some things, and I think they're already foreshadowing a lot of things with Aemond, and we're going to see Aemond step up for the Greens.
Oh,
Hmm.
yeah, I
That's what
cannot
yeah.
wait to see what is going to be going on there, how the Battle of Rooks Rest is going to shake up, and the lasting consequences it is going to have on the show going forward. Who's going to have to step up? Who's going to be stepping down? How is exactly that going to shake up the dynamic on the Greens? That's going to be fun to see. I'm really looking forward to seeing how this whole Rooks Rest thing plays out on the show compared to the book. It's going to be fun.
Mhm.
And apparently,
Yeah.
the Valerian armor costume took about 24 weeks for them to make, says Jamie.
Wow.
Hmm.
That's
Wow.
insane.
Yeah, that's crazy. That is crazy. And I do have to hand it to the prop department. I mean, a lot of the stuff that they have made, the armor, the swords, the daggers, the sets, everything looks great. I mean, everything looks so phenomenal on this show. So you really can't take anything away from them in that regard.
I wish that we got some Rhaenys flashbacks. I just do.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I just do.
I wish we
I mean,
really
I
got a
don't want
little
to
bit.
say, I don't want to say too much. But I just wish we got some Rhaenys flashbacks. Like, I feel like we haven't spent much time with her. I feel like, I don't know about if it's just me, but I feel like these
No.
first 4 episodes, 3 episodes, it's kind of been, we've been finding more out about the Greens and like their inner workings
Yeah.
more so
Yeah.
than Team Black.
Yeah, I agree.
And that's
Yeah.
just my perspective. So I'm not sure after tomorrow's episode if it's going to switch and we're going to see more perspective from the Blacks for the remainder of the season. I'm not quite sure, but I think we've been finding out a lot about the Greens' most inner workings and everything. So
Yeah, I was a little disappointed we didn't get a little bit more Rainy's screen time in the first 3 episodes in particular. Just
Mhm.
considering where the story is going and some of the big events that are going to be coming in the second half of the season, I
Mhm.
was definitely hoping at anyway that we would see a little bit more Rainy screen time within these first few episodes. But again, I mean, I love this show. Don't get me wrong, but I really feel like having only 8 episodes this season instead of the usual allotted 10 is definitely messing with some of the pacing and some of those decisions as well. Where you cut
Hmm.
out 2+ hours of screen time in a series, it's going to have some effects. Some things are going to have to get condensed, like the Krieg and Stark and Jace meeting, which lasted all of 6 minutes, which should have been an entire episode
Should have been a
dedicated to
whole
them
episode.
alone.
Hmm.
Yes,
At the
I
very
agree.
least, Jace should have stayed up north for an entire episode. The whole episode doesn't have to be solely dedicated to Jason Cregan, mind you, but Jace should have been in the north for the entirety of at least one full episode, with scenes kind of going back and forth between them and the rest of the cast. But again, I really feel like the 8 episode format it's just messing with the pacing a little bit for me, just me personally. I was expecting a little bit of a different pacing, and I do think the 8 episodes has something to do with that. But
Yeah.
I guess we'll have to see how the
Yeah.
rest of the season plays out. But I do think episode 4 is going to be one of the episodes that brings the fandom kind of back together and really kind of gets us pumped and psyched for the second half of the season. Because again, been getting a lot of complaints during these first 3 episodes that a lot of the comments in some of my videos have been saying that it's too slow, that nothing's happening, it's moving like a snail, and I understand that. That's totally cool. We want everybody to share their opinions about the show, whether you liked it, whether you didn't like it. We want to know. But I do share some sentiments in terms of some of the pacing being a little off during the first 3 episodes. But hopefully, from episode 4 on, we're going to see a little bit of a better pacing, and we're going to start to see a little bit more of a kind of direct path once the war really, really starts going. Because that was one of the main focuses, it seems like, during these first 3 episodes, at least where Rhaenyra was concerned, was
Mhm.
doing everything in her power to try and avoid war. She's trying everything, even a Hail Mary effort by sneaking into King's Landing herself to talk to Alicent for one last-ditch attempt to try and avoid war. But now that the war is very closely looming, and once she actually commits to the war, I think we will see a little bit of a different show in terms of tone going forward for the second half of the season.
I thought it was
But
interesting they didn't sneak her in with the crime cloak.
yeah, where was her skullduggery cloak?
Where was the
She didn't. Like, come on, you got Damon in the cloak of skullduggery. You got all of Larry's little fireflies. They all got skullduggery cloaks. Where is Rhaenyra's skullduggery cloak? Yeah, it was missing. It was missing. All right, let's see what else we got. But yeah, definitely let us know throughout the night in the chat, ladies and gentlemen, what were some of your favorite scenes, and some scenes that you maybe thought could have been done a little bit different. I almost forgot about Cregan Stark for a second. I know he comes and goes so fast that you kind of do, me personally, I will never forget Cregan Stark. And this stream will never forget Cregan Stark either, because every once in a while, you just need to hear that Cregan Stark music.
Duty is sacrifice. It eclipses all things, even blood. All men of honour must pay its price. North owes a great duty to the Seven Kingdoms, one older than any oath. Since the days of the first men, we have stood as guardians against the cold and the dark. But my ancestor, Torrin Stark, began a tradition by making an offering at the onset of winter. 1 in 10 men from our household was to be chosen to fortify the watch. This is not a sentence, but an honour. A duty embraced by all who serve the North. Even by mine own kin. The North must stand ready. winter is coming.
Winter is
Love it.
coming. Yes, and the winter wolves are coming as well. I cannot wait until we start getting some winter wolf action on the show. As much as I really want to see the winter wolves in season 2, I'm not really expecting it. But it would be nice to get a nice little winter wolf appearance somewhere in season 2. But they will definitely be in season 3 if we don't see them this season.
Right.
But yeah, a little bit of House Stark music does the soul well, in my opinion. The North remembers.
Completely out of context, can you imagine how just insufferable the Starks are to everybody else? We're like generation after generation, winter is coming. Yeah, we know, guys. We know winter's coming.
We get
Okay.
it. Winter's on the way. We get it. Yeah. Yeah, I can understand that. Maybe I can understand that. But speaking of some of the revelations that we got in episode 3, this was one of the more controversial ones, and I saw a lot of people talking about this one, and I definitely love to get everybody's take on it, both in the chat and on the panel. Starting with you, Kayla. I know you're a big Daenerys fan. How did you feel about these eggs being confirmed to be Daenerys eggs? 3 of these eggs are Daenerys eggs, and the 4th one, according to Ryan Condal, the 4th one will belong to young Viserys. So it looks like not only are these Daenerys eggs, but
it will run. It will not to wait. Hold on, my mind right now. This makes me feel like we're not going to get Nettles then, because I didn't hear anything about the 4th egg going to Viserys.
Yeah, the 4th egg is going to Viserys. I was hoping that the 4th egg could potentially be Rhaena's morning. But Ryan Condal has confirmed that the 4th egg will be young Viserys, and the other 3 are Daenerys' eggs. So yes, that definitely does not bode well for morning on the show, and it definitely doesn't bode well for maybe some of those Nettles rumors might end up being true. But what did you think about the whole egg debacle and them? I mean, I get what they were trying to do. They're trying to connect this show to Game of Thrones, but I did see a lot of book readers were very upset by this for some reason.
I mean, well, I'm kind of like upset right now because you just dropped some news on me I wasn't prepared for. I'm like, what?
Sorry.
So I'm trying to process that last statement there. Number one, like Cyrax doesn't even look like Drogon, Rhaegal, and Viserion. Dreamfire, on the other hand, from the glimpse that we looked at Dreamfire did. And I don't know. It's so hard for me as a book reader, and I know I have to separate this stuff. I think now I just need to wait for George to give a definite statement on it before I really think of anything. I guess we won't see like Rhaena, the Black Bride, that will be completely cut. I don't know. Like, are they trying to make Rhaenyra look like Daenerys in some way, like a 2.0 of Daenerys? Like, I just think that Rhaenyra is an interesting character in her own rights. She doesn't need to be like a copy of her own great grandmother and
a copy of Daenerys
granddaughter, whatever the case, I don't know. That news about Viserys getting that egg, that threw me off. I was not prepared for that.
I had the exact same hope you did when I saw these eggs, and then when I saw the confirmation that 3 of them were indeed Daenerys' eggs, and I thought, okay, maybe there's a small slither of hope that 4th egg could be Rhaena's, and maybe that's morning. And then when I got the other confirmation that no, that is young Viserys' egg. It's just, I mean, it's just, Nettles is such an important character to the show. And to cut Nettles out entirely, again, I do, if that is what they did, I do think it is a huge mistake. I think Nettles is a very important character. She's not just a very cool character that is a huge fan favorite, but she's a very important character as well. She's the most popular dragon seed. She's the dragon seed that has the most to do story-wise, especially later on when it comes to the Gullet, when it comes to her and Daemon kind of in the Riverlands hunting for Aemond, and the rift between Daemon and Rhaenyra getting wider because of the rumors surrounding her and Daemon and Nettles. She's just way too important of a character to the narrative, in my opinion, to just outright cut out. But I guess we'll have to wait and see. And definitely let us know in the chat as well. What do you guys think about the whole Nettles debacle? Let us know.
I mean, at the same time, like the Reyna, the Reyna had her eggs stolen, so I guess they're going to use this Reyna to make it happen.
Mhm.
I'm trying to wrap my head around this now because you just dropped a bomb on me.
Well-
Like, I'm just like, wait, Sirius is getting an egg. So I just, I'm
But
now like, so obviously, like, they're connect. I know I have to separate things completely. I know this.
Yeah, it's two
I'm smart
totally
enough to
different
know
canons.
this. And they're
Everything that happens
connecting
on the
it.
show is not
They're
book
just
canon. George
connecting
has
it
made
to
that
Game of
very
Thrones.
clear. Yeah.
He has made that. He's been very adamant about that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's obviously well, if that's the case, it's pretty much like how Dance of the Dragons, it's kind of weave throughout Game of Thrones. It's in a way, like George kind of tells stories of Game of Thrones, like that are happening currently in Game of Thrones through past history, like the Dance of the Dragons. We know there will be another one, and history repeats itself if people don't learn from its mistakes. So in an aspect, I guess they're taking that route with the show in order to connect this to the Game of Thrones continuity. I guess that's the only answer I can have for it, but yeah.
Yeah, they don't
I
connect the
don't.
two shows. I mean, they've made it very clear. Obviously, the shows and the books are two totally different canons. So just because these are Daenerys' eggs in the book, I mean in the show, obviously that does not mean that we know the origin of Daenerys' eggs in the book. I very much like the Dreamfire theory myself. I feel like it's the most fitting in terms of the timeline. But yeah, I mean, I kind of just took it as they're just trying to connect House of the Dragon to Game of Thrones a little bit more. So I didn't really have a big problem with these being Daenerys' eggs. I didn't really mind that. My big takeaway was no mourning at the end of the day. No mourning, which means, are these Nettles rumors true? Are we not going to get Nettles? And is Reyna going to get a portion of Nettles' storyline if she
That's
does
what I'm
end up
wondering
trying to
now.
steal it?
But why does this? Do these eggs preclude Nettles being part of the storyline? Because isn't the dragon that she tames
It doesn't
older?
in isolation. In isolation, it doesn't. But I think what a lot of people were pointing to for this,
No
whereas if one
mourning.
of these eggs was mourning, that would point to Reyna having a similar story that she does in the book, with her getting a late dragon egg that ends up hatching and turns into mourning, which is Reyna's dragon. But if Reyna doesn't have an egg on the show, I guess a lot of people were just starting to think that that leads a little bit more credence to the rumor that Reyna is going to get Sheep Stealer on the show. That's why they didn't give her a dragon egg. And if Reyna gets Sheep Stealer on the show, that means Nettles is probably not going to be there.
Yeah, that's
But
pretty
they're
much
So
my
it's a lot of
thought
assumptions.
process.
Yeah.
But isn't Reyna getting sent with these eggs?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, so it could still turn out closer to the book.
I mean, I'm not
Well,
sure.
not according to Ryan Condal. Ryan Condal said that the fourth egg is Viserys. I mean, I suppose it could change at some point, but if we're to take Ryan Condal's word as the showrunner, it doesn't look like we are seeing mourning on the show as of yet. Anyway, I mean, who knows what'll happen down the road? But it's just weird. We are seeing a lot of these small changes throughout, and I totally get the argument that Fire and Blood isn't an exact history. It's very much told from the unreliable narrator standpoint, so a lot of the events are a little bit ambiguous. But at the end of the day, Fire and Blood is the source material, and it's the only source material we have for this time period. So until George comes out with a more definitive version of the events that happened during the Dance of the Dragons, until that happens, unfortunately, Fire and Blood is the only thing we have to compare it to. Because I've seen a lot of people, wondering why so many people are comparing the show to the book. Because the book is the source material. That's the only thing we have to compare it to.
Very well
But no,
said.
I mean, yeah, that's just my take. That's just my take. But I totally understand people having different opinions on this, which is totally cool. That's what these streams are for. I want to hear everybody's opinion. What did you guys think about all these things? What did you like? What did you not like? That's what is so fun about these discussions. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen with Reyna. I don't know what's going to happen with Nettles, but I'm interested to see how it unfolds.
I mean, it just makes me feel like they're going to merge her character with Nettles. I don't know. I don't want to think about this right now. I just don't. I don't. I mean,
As
but it is
Radical,
cool to see the dragon eggs, you know. I
yeah,
won't lie.
yeah.
Like it is cool to see the dragon
Mhm.
eggs. So
Yeah, especially, and a lot of people were wondering why they were such deep color. When we see Daenerys' dragon eggs on Game of Thrones, they're much more faded. They're kind of petrified at that point and turned to stone. And that's just because these eggs are fresh. These eggs were just hatched. So it makes sense that the color would be much more vibrant as opposed to almost 200 years later when they're practically petrified stone by the time Dany gets them. So, because I did see a lot of people commenting on that the colors didn't really line up for Daenerys dragons, and I thought that's just
well,
because these ones are much more freshly laid, I think.
yes,
But yeah, we are
clearly.
getting Silver Daneys, as Radical Z points out, which I know you and I, Kayla, were very excited when we saw the casting for Silver Daneys. Just
Yes.
considering that Silver Daneys is probably one of the most minor characters from Fire and Blood, but he's attached to such an exciting scene that it gave us a little bit of hope that maybe we'll see Cannibal on the show at one point. If not this season, maybe next season. Because yeah, as you mentioned, Radical, Silver Daneys was indeed cast. This is true.
That's his only role is to do to just be there for that one period of time. And
Yeah,
I
yeah, the
really
horrific
want to see it
death,
go
as
down.
yeah, the horrific death that Betrayed King points out. That's really his only point on in the
Yes.
book is just to have a horrific death.
And I laughed
Um,
reading that. And I know that's so wrong. Like, but I laughed my ass off because it just was so unfortunate. It was
hmm.
just like, wow. It's just like super unfortunate.
And this brings up a good point as well, as Tyler points out. So, will Damon not cheat
Ah.
in the show? That's a good question, Tyler. That's a very
Hmm.
good question. Because, yeah, I mean, the book makes it known that Damon has fidelity problems. I
Mhm.
mean, he's sleeping around, and there's even at one point. When Damon and Rhaenyra get to a point where Rhaenyra knows that Damon is sleeping with Massaria and she's totally fine with it. So I guess it's going to be interesting to see how that kind of aspect plays on the show. Will we see Damon and Massaria kind of fall back in at some point? If there is no Nettles or if there is Nettles on the show, what is that relationship going to look like? Because that's another very ambiguous one in and of itself. Whereas there are some accounts where Damon and Nettles were intimate, and there are some accounts where Nettles was more of a daughter-like figure to Damon. So we're not quite sure what exactly really happened. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, that's an interesting question though, Tyler. Yeah, maybe Damon won't be running around cheating in the show like he is in the book. I don't know. I don't know.
I
And yeah,
don't
there's another
know.
one as Radical Z brings up the same thing. Yeah, maybe Nettles was cut so Damon doesn't cheat on Rhaenyra.
Yeah.
Maybe. I mean, if that is the reasoning, though, I mean, just take a
That's
step back
stupid.
and think about that for a second. Well, it's funny. I think it's funny if nothing else because they don't mind portraying Damon as this horrific child murderer, but they draw the line at him cheating on Rhaenyra. Really?
Well,
It's just kind of funny. It's just
I
kind
think
of funny.
that's why I think it's stupid. I mean, I think this is a Song of Ice and Fire universe. Everybody does dirty pretty much to everybody in
Yeah.
every which way. You know, I think
Hmm.
the only two that you can say, like from the Dance of Dragons, are probably like just good characters. It's Bela and Reina,
Yes.
as in like their personality characteristics and after the dance things. And that's just me from a book perspective. I don't
Yeah.
know really much about this show. But as far as like the roles they play afterwards, I mean, they're looked at as like the pride of everything
Yeah.
at the end of everything. So
Very
try not to
true. Very
spoil
true.
too
Yeah.
much. I'm really trying my hardest.
I know, and that's the thing about the Dance of the Dragons is it's so hard not to spoil certain things, like when you're talking about what happened in the book. Now, and granted, just because something happened in the book doesn't necessarily mean it's going to play out that same way on the show. I feel like the show has proven up until this point where they are following the source material, yes, but at times they are deviating and kind of doing their own thing, which is expected. This is an adaptation at the end of the day, not a one-to-one depiction. So yeah, just because something happened in the book doesn't necessarily mean it's going to happen the same way on the show. Yeah.
So, I mean, I know that what we can do, like what people can do that should connect well with the Game of Thrones show, is anything that is said pertaining to the Dance of the Dragons or the stories that were told. We probably Joffrey's word right there, because that was already done in Game of Thrones, so we know ultimately
Joffrey spoiled
something. He spoiled the whole end of the series.
He literally spoiled this entire series already. I get it's a
Shireen.
throwaway line that not a lot of people maybe remember. But yes, between Shireen and Joffrey, they already completely spoiled this entire story. So at the end of the day, well, it's very quick throwaway lines, but there is a few scenes in Game of Thrones where Joffrey is explaining some of the events that happened during the Dance of the Dragons to Marjorie. And then there's one account where Shireen is talking to Davos about the Dance of the Dragons and what happened during it. So yeah, I mean, Game of Thrones totally already spoiled this entire series.
So
which is kind of
go
funny.
back and watch that episode, everyone, if you want to know the end. If you forgot, you forgot. But if you remember, then you know where it's heading.
Yeah,
Should at least.
we know where it's heading, but how it's going to get there is going to be some of the interesting parts, in my opinion. We might know some of the big events and what is going to happen, but in terms of the show, we're not exactly sure how these things are going to happen. So in terms of changes, I'm all for changes. I don't mind some changes to the source material every once in a while, as long as it makes sense within the confines of the story. I am totally cool with some changes. I love the connection of Rhaenyra and Mysaria. Yeah, we saw a little bit of that in this episode as well, and I definitely think that is going to be a relationship that continues to get cultivated, if nothing else. Where these are two very interesting characters, and I loved how in the previous episode it took Rhaenyra a little while to even remember who Mysaria was. After a while, she started remembering. It's like, oh, wait a minute, you were the guy that was banging Daemon before me. So I really thought I'm enjoying where they're going with these two characters anyway, whereas we know what happens in the book in terms of the role that Mysaria plays in Rhaenyra's court and all of that. And it seems like they're going a similar direction on the show. So yeah, I'm enjoying the kind of the relationship that's building up here between Mysaria and Rhaenyra, where Mysaria very much realizes or recognizes that Rhaenyra is her better option of the two between the blacks and the greens.
You know what I have to say? You're going to be so shocked right now. So Aemond in the books, absolutely hate him. Aemond in the show, I'm really growing to feel for him. And I don't feel as bad about him having Vhagar anymore. Although Vhagar is like my favorite dragon. I think they're doing a great job fleshing him out, and the actor he's phenomenal. I think this season where they're just fleshing him out a little more, and you feel a little bit more of an emotional attachment to him as a character. At least I do. I feel kind of more sorry for him, whereas in the first season, I just was like, you motherfucker, you got my dragon. Like, I hate you. But this season, I'm really growing to like him as a character. And I think they're doing such a good job playing on the parallels between him and Daemon, because that's exactly what he is. He's a parallel character to Daemon.
Yeah.
And it's just been great so far. And I can't believe I'm saying that. I never in a million years thought I would say that. So
yeah, he's one of the more interesting and likable characters to me. Him, and then Rhaena and Bela. The rest of them I could do without, but the three of them I'm finding interesting.
Yeah, I'm loving what they're doing with Aemond on the show. I mean, I don't dislike Aemond in the book. Yes, he's a little bit of a shite, and he does some pretty. He's definitely a little bit more painted as an antagonist for sure.
Yeah,
and he's definitely painted a bit of it as an antagonist on the show as well. But I love how they are kind of peeling those layers back. They, you know, and that's the thing with a TV series compared to a book. A show just has a lot more time to kind of peel back some of these layers and give these characters some kind of extra layer and depth that didn't really happen in Fire and Blood. Just considering the nature of Fire and Blood, that it's not told from POV chapters, you never really get the inner workings of how a character thinks like you do in the main Game of Thrones series. So I love what they're doing with Aemond on the show so far. I think the casting is probably some of the better casting in House of the Dragon as a whole. Ewan Mitchell, I just feel like he was born to play Aemond. He's perfect in this role. And yeah, I want to see more of him. I want to see more of him. Again, Aemond full frontal wasn't exactly on my bingo card.
I didn't want to see any of that. I didn't think that was needed. However, I will say, I was talking with Aldous the other day, and Aldous said something so eloquently about that scene that I think he should talk about tonight, about the symbolism of that, because it was really cool how he
Well,
described
he's got no. It is cool. It's a cool moment. And number one, I mean, we're all adults. Like, it's not a big deal.
You know what
But
though? They didn't show Jon Snow full frontal in every season of Game of Thrones. If I wanted to see anyone full frontal, come on now.
They showed plenty. They did show plenty of
up.
full frontal in Game of Thrones, so that's nothing new. We saw Theon full frontal. We saw a lot of full frontal in Thrones too.
But he's standing up before his brother and is in front of his brother. After his brothers mocked him, he stands up, fully nude, fully exposed, and says, "Go ahead," and walks out. He's got nothing to hide. Everything's there.
Yeah.
And if you watch Aemon, or his brother kind of takes a step back a little bit. He's not prepared for that. And again, it shows the dichotomy between the two brothers. I thought it was just a great moment that it really establishes the character. And in film, it's so, in comics, in graphic novels and stuff, it's show, don't tell. And that's always the rule in film as well. If you can show something in a scene without having to espouse a line to get it across, it's the old rules from theater apply. And that's such a beautiful moment because it's handled so well that you learn more about Aemond in that one moment than we've learned in the previous 3 episodes.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good point. I mean, and that's why I do understand what they were trying to go for with that scene in terms of, like you said, seeing Aemond having everything just laid bare. And also we kind of see Aemond not return to that, what he was as a little kid, but probably at least had flashbacks to it in terms of his brother making fun of him. We saw when Aemond was a child, he was definitely the black sheep. He was definitely the outsider. He was always getting picked on by Aegon and Rhaenyra's kids. And I feel like we saw Aemond kind of return to that, even if it was probably only for a split second and he snapped right out of it. But we did start to see that aspect again. And if nothing else, it shows a good contrast in terms of where these characters have started and where they have ended up. Where Aemond has grown up and changed so much, Aegon still seems to be that same bratty kid.
Yep. And I think April May brings up even an extenuated point to that. And I think I brought this up to Kayla, was also his pose. If you look at the pose as he's taking the step forward, he's dragging his foot a little bit. It's almost like a Greek statue of a god in how he's standing and moving forward slowly, but with a grace. It's just an eloquent scene, and kudos to the actor for doing it, because that takes guts. And he handled it expertly. And it's just that great these happen so rarely in modern film, because film is done. Very few theater people move into film. So to see a great moment like this, that's like something on how you would handle it on a stage, was just awesome with the lighting and everything. It was a beautiful moment. And, I don't want to see naked dudes on screen, but if you're going to do it, at least make it artistic. And they did.
And also too, I think it's very a foreshadowing moment too, for things to come between him and his brother as well, or the aftermath of certain events, because he's completely shameless. Like, he's shameless. He's accepted who he is with all his flaws. So And I mean,
Yeah,
like, physical
I feel
flaws
like
as
he's.
and he's, like, missing his eye. He's maimed pretty much,
Mm.
so.
I feel like he's comfortable in his skin, and I don't think he
Mhm.
always was. And we saw, and we even started to see the change in Aemond even as a child. Whereas before Aemond claimed Vagar and after Aemond claimed Vagar, he was very clearly two totally different people. Where
Mhm.
instantly, as soon as he claimed Vagar, it seemed like he had this newfound kind of confidence and a surety about him that he didn't
Yeah.
really have prior, because he was that outcast. He was the black sheep. He was the only one without a dragon. I can only imagine what that must have done to him psychologically. I mean, they're all Targaryen princelings. They're all, meant to think that they're going to grow up and have dragons. And Aemon was the only one without a dragon. Seeing his brother and all of his family members grow up with dragons must have messed him up a little bit. So I feel like him claiming
Yeah.
Vagar was kind of the first step in terms of him actually really growing up and finding his own identity. And I think we continue to see that identity get fleshed out a little bit more and more. I'm loving what they're doing with Aemond on the show. He's definitely one of my favorite characters, hands down. I love the performance from Ewan, and I
Yeah.
love the writing direction that they're giving his character in particular.
I
But
agree.
we got some super chats from the awesome Crazy Man. Thank you so much, Crazy Man, for the $9.99. Kayla and me are on point with what we are thinking. Please hit that like button for Jeremy, the sweetest, kindest host ever. All the ladies want him, and all the guys want to be him except Snuggy. Oh, geez.
Oh,
Well,
man.
thank you. Thank you so much for that, Crazy Mad. Crazy Mad, Crazy Mad knows how much I love compliments. So yeah, he just loves throwing those in. But thank you, sir. I very much appreciate the super chat, and you begrudgingly also get a whoa. Begrudgingly, but don't think you're going to get any glitter because you're not.
Whoa!
Thank you, my friend. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We also have a $5 super chat from Leo V as well. Thank you so much, Leo V. Very much appreciate that, my friend. Would the Aemond frontal scene be considered breaking the third wall? Was that House of the Dragon's way of doing it?
I mean,
I
I
don't
guess he
know.
has the right to do it because he got Vagar after all. I'm saying.
In a way, yeah. I guess that argument could be made. But thank you guys so much for the super chats, and thank you, Leo V, for the 5. You definitely deserve a whoa.
Whoa!
Indeed. Thank you guys. Thank you.
What struck me also with that scene is I kind of looked at Eamon getting up and kind of leaving like he did because he didn't have any other choice. He couldn't kind of, cave into his brother or show weakness to his brother. But then he had his prostitute or lover or whatever you want to call her was there who had to just sit there and take it, that she couldn't say anything to counter or to defend herself, that she was kind of stuck, and then Eamon couldn't really defend her either with the company he was in. So it was kind of a complex scene, or it had a lot of depth in it in that
Yeah.
respect as far as interpersonal relationships.
Yeah, there's
What?
some more nuances going on there that are kind of bubbling beneath the surface. Yes, we have the surface level with Aemon kind of getting up and the way that he walks out of the room, Aegon kind of showcasing that same old bully mentality he had as a kid. But there's a lot going on there just under the surface as well. And I thought the way Aemon reacted in particular was very interesting. I feel like that was a way for him to kind of guard his emotions and maybe not let Aegon know how much that whore in particular meant to him, because it seems like that whore in particular does mean something to Aemon. That was the one who popped his cherry at the end of the day, and that's the one he keeps going back to. So it definitely, that lady definitely means something to Aemon, and whether it's the motherly figure or the creepiness that's going on there, we definitely know Alicent was not a very warm mother growing up. So I would not be too surprised if Aemon does have a little bit of those kind of latent mommy issues, maybe. But yeah, there were some kind of nuances going on there as well, where Aemon, where we see Aegon kind of come in, and he wants to get this new squire. He wants to break this new squire in, and out of everyone in the brothel, they go right to the one that is Aemon's, that Aegon knows to be kind of Aemon's. So yeah, there's a lot going on right under the surface there in terms of what we see on the surface. It was a good scene. It was an interesting scene.
This is going to sound weird, but in a way, I think it kind of is reminiscent of at Harrenhal when you see Rhaenyra say to Daemon, like, when I was a child, I took that as a challenge, but now I am an adult. In some way, it's like those two scenes are mirroring each other. Yeah, I don't know how to describe it, how it's like in my mind, but I just keep thinking of that quote. Also, I want a shirt that says "whores will be whores" on it, or whatever the case. That was like the way that he just delivered that. Like,
yeah, what one whore is as good as the next.
Yeah, one good one. Yeah, that's exactly what it was. Pretty much. But I just thought it was kind of reminiscent with the young Rhaenyra talking to Daemon in some aspect. I can't necessarily like pinpoint it right now, but it kind of, I don't know, it kind of was reminiscent of each other in some way. So
okay. Interesting. Vic says he's like you've taken everything from me to the point where I'm literally naked now. What else can you take at this point? Not my pride, that's for sure. And then he walked away like a boss. And that was very much kind of that was kind of the same gist I was getting from him as well. Whereas, and Aemon really has been the diligent brother his entire life. And especially knowing what we know about Aemon deep down, where he very much feels like he is the more worthy of the two brothers, and knowing that he's still done his duty as a brother and been very diligent. So yeah, I very much kind of got a similar takeaway from that scene as well, Vic. Very much. Was it just me, or did you see the skin around his crystal seem to get blacker as he walked away? Ooh, interesting. I didn't notice that myself. I'll have to go back and watch that scene and no pun intended, keep an eye out for it. But no, I didn't notice that on my watch. I'll have to go back and check it out though. That could be interesting if they did that. That could be interesting. Just doing what he did really, really impressed me. It was a good scene. It was a really good scene for sure. It would have been more. It would have had more impact if Aemon had done the helicopter at Aegon.
Okay, I think I know what it is now. It came into my mind.
Yeah, the helicopter. We see the helicopter in basketball. So if you haven't seen basketball, check it out. You'll see Matt Stone and Trey Parker do the helicopter. Oh, geez. Good stuff, guys. It's not easy being full nude when everyone else is clothed or covered. Absolutely not. I mean, whether it's in the confines of the show or even just as an actor on set, being surrounded by a whole cast and crew and extras and cameras and all this, and you're literally the only one starch freaking naked. You gotta have some guts, and you and Mitchell seem to have no problem with it. So hey, credit to him. Aemon cares for brothel women for the brothel women for then Alicent. Yeah. It does seem like he's got some latent mommy issues there. And I think that would be very understandable. Again, Alicent seemed like she was a very cold and distant mother, not very loving. And I feel like that's portrayed very much early on in season 2, where we see the stark difference between Rhaenyra as a mother and Alicent as a mother. Where at the beginning of season 2, Rhaenyra completely just shirks her duties as queen because the mother part of her is grieving. The mother needs that confirmation. The mother needs to see with her own eyes that her son Lucerys is really dead, to the point where she doesn't even think about her duty as queen in war. She's a mother first, always, Rhaenyra. Alicent isn't that. When I look at Alicent, I feel like a mother is probably maybe third or fourth on her priority list. And I feel like that was never more evident than the scene at the end of episode 2, right after Blood and Cheese happens, and we see Aegon just bawling his eyes out in his room, sitting in his chair. We see Alicent walk up to the door, and I get the feeling Alicent was probably going to go in to kind of scold him for firing Otto as Hand of the King. But she gets to the doorway, sees that Aegon is just breaking down emotionally, and she turns around and walks away. She doesn't even attempt to try and comfort her son, who's mourning the loss of his son. So I feel like we see a very stark difference in terms of how good of a mother Rhaenyra is versus how terrible of a mother Alicent is. And so you could totally understand why Aemon might have some weird mommy issues because of it. Alicent seems very distant as a mother.
It's kind of like she's kind of doing her own thing, but then when you think about when Luke died, everyone kind of went out of their way to comfort each other and everything. They're all just kind of segregated amongst each other, everyone on the green side, pretty much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So they just don't deal with things as a unit together.
Yeah, very much not. Very much not. And I feel like at the beginning, we saw the Blacks were a little bit more of a cohesive group, at least in terms of family, where Jace, Rhaenyra, Daemon, Joffrey, they very much are portrayed as a little bit more of a tighter knit unit, whereas the Greens just seem incredibly dysfunctional, even more so now with Otto gone.
Yeah.
But Channel brings up an interesting question. Was that really him? Who was that they CGI'd the face on the naked body? They did that in Game of Thrones for Cersei, actually. When you look back to the Cersei scene in Game of Thrones, when she makes her walk of atonement from the Sept of Baelor to the Red Keep, that isn't actually the actress Lena Headey's body. That's not really her boobs. That's actually an extra they had do that scene, and they CGI'd Cersei's face on top of it. I don't think that's what they did here, though. I mean, I didn't get... When you look at that Cersei scene, if you look closely enough and you watch it on slow, you can really start to see a little bit of the distortion between Cersei's face and where her neck meets the rest of her body. You can almost tell it's CGI in Game of Thrones. I didn't really get that feeling with this scene. I get the feeling that was legit that was legit Ewan Mitchell doing a full frontal scene. I don't think it was CGI. When it comes to CGI, or at least a prop, and I know we designated it the hashtag prop dong in the chat last week, but in terms of the blowjob scene that we did get in that very same scene, that was raw. I mean, I was definitely not expecting something. It's one thing to see full frontal nudity, which I come to expect in HBO shows. HBO has been doing that in shows ever since the 90s. I mean, anyone who's watched Oz knows that we've seen a lot of dong on HBO in the past. But in terms of just having a full-on blowjob scene like that, is where I think some of the props come into play. There's no way that was a real blowjob scene. That was most likely a prop dong. That's why we have dubbed it hashtag prop dong here on the channel. I do think that was really aimed at.
They could have cut that scene, if not, for me personally, they could have cut that and gave me some of the Brackens and the Blackwoods fighting each other. Just saying. I would have been content with that. I mean, they built the whole set for the burning mill and everything, and I would have just liked to see it shit go down. The episode was titled The Burning Mill, and I feel like I got nothing of the burning mill.
I feel like at the very least, they should have had a different title for that episode. Like, how are you going to name the episode Battle of the Burning Mill and show none of the actual battle? I feel like they probably could have done a little bit better with some kind of Harrenhal title with Daemon or something. But yeah, again, I feel like the reduction in episodes from 10 down to 8 is a reason why we're going to see some things get skipped over here and there in season 2, whereas usually they might have had some time to kind of flesh that out a little bit more.
Right.
Alicent is even worse. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, now's a good time, too, to talk about fleshing out characters. That they did the old switcheroo on me, and we thought I was going to get my Benjacat Blackwood. And I didn't.
No.
I didn't, Jeremy. My ire has been raised.
Me too. Lord. I'm right there with you. Especially when we first saw the image of this actor, and you look at the art from the Rise of the Dragon book, it's like a perfect freaking casting. It looks just like Urtek Alanos's art.
Yes.
And then when we see this scene, all of us, everybody thought that this was Benjicor Blackwood. And then when the scene actually happens, if you look at the subtitles, apparently this character's name was Davos Blackwood, which isn't even a book character. Now that leads me to believe that there's two options here. Either they changed Benjicor's name from Benjicor to Davos on the show, or that just was meant to be a random Blackwood character, and maybe we'll actually see the real Benjicor a little bit later on down the road. I don't know, but yeah, it was definitely threw me for a loop. Everybody thought this was Benjicor, and then turns out it's not.
Looking at the Brackens look soft. Just saying. Like just looking like, come on now.
Could you get higher cheekbones?
Like this person does not look battle hardened and ready to fight. You know, they don't look like they're about it. On the other hand, you look over on the Blackwood side, it's like savagery over there.
Yeah.
So look at that. He's ready. I've always been Team Blackwood. I mean, anytime I see a house that is still worshiping the old gods, that house is always going to get a wink and a nod from me personally. Absolutely.
But yeah, it was a little disappointing to find out that this wasn't Benjicor. So I hope they still cast him. I don't know. I hope they still cast him at some point. They better cast him, right? I mean, man,
maybe
yeah,
it was
very bamboozled. Saw Davos in the subtitles. I was like, what? We have been bamboozled. I felt the exact same way. And that's possible too, Kayla. I mean, maybe it was just some kind of typo, maybe, but I don't know. I don't know.
I was disappointed. I wanted some sword fighting, some action going on, see someone get stabbed, see shit get lit on fire and everything. Like at least a little bit of it, and then they could have showed the aftermath the way that they did. But I needed some action. I wanted to see fight go down. Like, damn, I was a little disappointed about that. Instead, I get the opening of the brothel and some of the stuff with Elf the White that I thought was too long. Yeah. So that was a little bit disappointing to me. I wanted to see the fight go down. This is like the first major battle that really sets the tide for how things are going to be in the future.
It's the first battle, period. Like when we think about the Dance of the Dragons, yes, we've had some deaths and some events before this with battle. Yeah, exactly. You got Vagar slaughtering Luke above Shipbreaker Bay. You got Blood and Cheese. But in terms of like the first actual proper battle, the Battle of the Burning Mill is the first one. So yeah, I mean, it's nice that they at least alluded to it, but it would have been nice to actually see a little bit of the fighting. Even if they couldn't show the full-on, full-pitch battle, I feel like at the very least they should have shown this fight scene between these two characters, between this Davos character and this Bracken. At the very least, if you're not going to show the entire battle, at least show a quick little one-on-one fight between these two characters so we see how the battle starts. At the very least, I wish we would have gotten that. But yeah, bad subtitle error. Davos was one of the other guys, perhaps. I don't know. I mean, I suppose anything's possible. There have been subtitle errors in the past on some shows. I mean, it doesn't happen too often, but it has happened in the past. But yeah, I'm not sure. When I saw that Davos Blackwood, I was just as bamboozled as the rest of you. I was thrown for a loop, right, just with everybody else. Bracken be churning butter. Bracken's out there churning butter. Yeah, that's very much the Brackens. They got the churning butter vibes. They don't have that old god deep insanity of the Blackwoods. Absolutely not. Hell no.
True. That is so true.
Catspaw thought he was a female at first. Oh, poor kid. Yeah, maybe it's the high cheekbones, like Aldous was saying.
It does look like a girl, though.
Little effeminate, maybe. Yeah, I can see that. a lot.
Here we go.
They set it up so good. Like, to me, this was a good setup to go into and at least show a fight. I was like, oh man, kind of like, I just was like a little disappointed with that because these two, they've been going at it forever, like through the test of
Hatfields and
time.
McCoys.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
like, I would have
To the point
had
where
to show something.
to the point where we don't even really know what kicked this whole rivalry off. They've just been at each other's throats in the Riverlands since the time of the first men, even for all we know. It's a very long rivalry. And yeah, like even the show kind of makes a point to kind of say this is no true war. The Brackens and the Blackwoods will use any excuse they can to kill each other, but it still very much is the beginning of the war, in my opinion. Looks like Boy Scouts selling mint cookies in front of Walmart, says Leo V. Anyone who follows the old gods really do seem consistently ready to pull up. They are. I mean, you gotta hand it to the houses that worship the old gods. They definitely seem like they come ready. They come correct for sure. Sorry, Kayla.
Oh, no, it's totally okay. I just have a question. Like, tomorrow, what houses do you think are going to show up for the Battle of Rooks Rest? Like,
ooh, interesting.
Yeah. Like, because I know in the books, what they mention, like who's on each side. I don't know. Am I allowed to say that? I'm trying to be mindful.
You can at least mention the houses that are involved. I mean, we don't have to say what happens, but the houses involved, yeah, absolutely.
So, like, for Team Black, House Staunton is there.
Yep.
And then for the Greens, Rosby, Stokeworth, was it Dustin or Darkland? I think it was Darkland. Yep. Darkland. I think it was Darkland. So I'm curious to see who they're going to show. I definitely think that we may see Stokeworth, because I think we did see like a clip at one point. We looked and I was trying to figure out the sigil and I was confusing it for another house. So I'm just curious to see what anyone thinks or what you guys think, or your opinions on it.
I'm not expecting them to make any kind of special emphasis on any of the other houses. I think we'll probably just see one standing army. I think we'll see the sigils represented, and I think we see that in some of these stills where we see some of the different sigils for some of the different houses. But in terms of what houses are going to be taking part in the Battle of Rooks Rest, I think it's probably going to just be portrayed more as the Greens, attacking House Staunton, pretty much. I'm not really expecting them to go much deeper than that, I guess.
I wish you had those stills like ready to go someplace.
I know. Well, there's just
that was such a while. That was so long ago, though.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see. Okay, so that's Darkland.
Yeah. We see, obviously, we know the high towers are there, of course. We see plenty of high tower banners. So some high tower action here. But yeah, there's not a whole lot of shots of all of the banners, unfortunately. More Hightower and Targaryen action here. Hornblower, very important, that hornblower job. Got to have a hornblower. But yeah, I think it's just going to be a straight up savage battle sequence where we see the Greens attacking House Staunton, and hopefully Melee's coming in at just the right time.
I'm not ready. I'm not ready. I'm not ready for tomorrow. I want to see it so
either,
bad, but I'm not ready.
Yeah, this battle is going to be incredibly insane. Again, just if the book is any guide, this battle is not only a major spectacle, but it has lasting consequences that can be felt throughout pretty much the entire of the Dance of the Dragons from that point forward. This battle drastically changes the trajectory and the course of events on both sides. So that's the part I'm looking forward to seeing the most. As much as I'm really looking forward to seeing the actual battle, I'm just as much looking forward to seeing the aftermath and how this shakes up the sides of the Greens and the Blacks. And now that the war is fully here, now that we don't have Rhaenyra kind of running around doing everything in her power to try and avoid war, once she actually embraces it, which apparently she does in this episode, that is the thing I'm looking forward to seeing most. How is this battle going to shake up the dynamics of the Blacks and the Greens going forward in terms of the power structure, in terms of the hierarchy, especially on the side of the Greens, considering what happens in this battle? That is the aspect I'm probably most looking forward to. The battle itself, I can't wait to see, but I can't wait to see the aftermath probably even more.
No, for sure, man. And you might have covered it. I had to step away for a minute and deal with a dog. But I thought the most interesting thing in the pan of the preview of this sequence was we saw 3 houses present. And so do you think they're combining all 3 of the towns that are conquered by by the Greens as they come through? Do you think they're combining it into one battle?
I think so. I think
Maybe,
when we get in the book when Kristen Cole leaves King's Landing, he makes a few stops along the way and converts some other small crownland houses to the side of the Greens. I don't think we'll see any of that. I think we'll just see, the Greens be portrayed as one giant unit in particular. That's what I'm expecting anyway. I mean, maybe we'll see Kristen stop at Duskendale before Rook's Rest happens. We do get this very famous scene from the season 3 trailer where it looks like Sir Crispin is getting ready to execute someone. We can't quite tell who it is. We don't get a really clear shot at the sigils or face or anything. It doesn't look like, at first I thought this could have been Lord Staunton himself, but it doesn't really look like the actor who is playing Lord Staunton now, the more that I look at it. Maybe this could potentially be Sir Crispin stopping at Duskendale on his way to Rook's Rest, and maybe we'll actually see the beheading that we get before Rook's Rest starts. Maybe that could be this scene. Maybe that could be this scene. I'm not.
Yeah,
quite
actually,
sure.
that makes sense.
It could be. It's hard to tell, but it could be. It very well could.
Can you
Lord Gunther Darkland. That's right, Gunther Darkland. Maybe
I was
this
going
is
to
the
say, could you
beheading
go
of
back
Gunther
to the
Darkland.
Darkling clothing real quick? I want to see if we can connect the two, because if it is, like maybe, where they have the shields on or something, because that would make sense, because he definitely was beheaded.
It would make sense
for
if it was
treason.
Gunther.
For treason,
Yeah,
at that.
I feel like it would make sense if this was Gunther getting his good old head removed.
And then,
or it could potentially. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just thinking, and I think all of his household knights, or the majority of the household knights, do pledge their allegiance to Aegon. Although quite a few did choose to die along with their lord. So I wonder. I think it might be. I don't know.
It could be. It could be good old Gunther Darkland. I think that's the most likely candidate. It doesn't look like it's the same actor who plays Lord Staunton, who we saw in episodes 1 and 2 at Rhaenyra's Black Council. If I had to guess off the back, this is good old Gunther losing his head before the Battle of Rook's Rest starts. Maybe. It's just a guess. Just a guess. And speaking of new characters, we got our very first look at Sir Gawain Hightower in episode 3. And I know a lot of people were kind of throwing a lot of shade at this guy when he first arrived. I actually kind of enjoy him. I kind of enjoy this character. And for me, anyone that's going to throw shade and give Crispin Cole shit is okay in my book. And that's why I kind of liked him. Like right off the bat, he's instantly kind of throwing shade at Crispin, giving him shit, not listening to his orders. So for that reason alone, I was like, okay, all right, I can get on board with this. I can get on board with this. But another really phenomenal scene we got in episode 3, probably my second favorite scene, was this phenomenal Bela chase scene.
We march to make the first strike in the name of his grace.
I assure you, my nephew will not begrudge me a night of comfort. We will rendezvous with your army at first light. Or if their wine is good, perhaps a little after first light.
We're exposed.
What?
Get to the trees!
I love that song too that they played. I loved it.
Yes, it was very Daenerys-esque, wasn't it, in terms of the music that's playing?
Oh yeah, definitely. That's
I love
definitely
that
sampled
scene.
from that.
It sounded just like Daenerys's kind of theme music there.
Trying to
But
think of
yeah,
the
I
song.
really enjoyed this scene. Seeing Bela and Moon Dancer in action for the first time, which we do know we're going to be getting 5 new dragons in season 2 that weren't in season 1, and of course, Bela and Moon Dancer is one of the 5. And I like what they did with Bela and Moon Dancer, and I feel like the design of the dragon looks great. I love what they did with the dragon's head in particular, the kind of dinosaur-like, aspect they have given Moon Dancer. This was great. This was a really fun scene to see. Just a straight up dragon Westerosi chase scene. Really fun.
I love seeing the dragon
Really
designs that they're coming up with. So Moon
Yeah,
Dancer is
I
like a
love seeing
cute dragon to me.
Yeah. Well, I really love seeing the look of fucking fear on not only Crispin's face, but look at poor old Gawain Hightower. He's just, he's like, man, he's seeing his life flash before his eyes right now. That is what that face is. His life is flashing before his eyes, and he doesn't know what to do about it. So I did enjoy that. That was pretty fun. That was a pretty fun scene. But I love some of the shots. I mean, I feel like there were some very interesting shots, and I loved how Bela doesn't even notice Crispin and all of them down there. It's actually Moon Dancer who notices them and alerts Bela. If you actually go back and watch this scene, Moon Dancer actually sees the little twinkle down there on the ground and starts getting a little bit restless, and that's when Bela notices. I loved that aspect, how the dragon noticed Crispin even before Bela did.
Yeah,
that was really cool. And again, it was a good chase scene. The CGI looks pretty good. Seeing Bela and Moon Dancer get super close to Crispin just as they make it into the tree line. It was a fun scene. This was a really fun scene, and it just if anything, it made me want to see more Bela. I want to see more Bela now. Bela the badass.
Yeah, she's pretty good. It's too bad she
She's
didn't
awesome.
get a chunk of Crispin's ass, but
I know. I would have burnt them all.
No.
Fuck up.
Yeah.
I would have just fucking flew down there and been like, I fucking Dracarys. That's it. And
his ass. It was a fun scene, though. I really enjoyed seeing this. And again, the freaking look on their faces was priceless. Priceless. Poor Gawain. He didn't know what to do. Because, I mean, it's one thing to know that dragons are around. It's one thing to live in a world with dragons, but knowing dragons exist and actually coming up close and personal with a dragon must be 2 totally different feelings. And I feel like until this scene happened, Sir Gawain Hightower wasn't really taking the magnitude of the situation very seriously. We hear him talking to Crispin. He's talking back to him, talking about going and visiting an inn, and where we'll see you in the morning if the ale isn't too good, maybe a little bit later. It seems like he was kind of undercutting the severity of their mission that they're going on. But seeing Bela and Moon Dancer come this close to taking a nice chunk out of their asses, I think this is going to wake up Sir Gawain, if nothing else.
Well, wasn't it implied that he had a lot more battle experience? That's how I understood it. That
he's
Crispin,
got
I don't
tourney
think
experience.
has. Oh, okay.
Crispin has battle experience. Yes.
Oh, okay.
Crispin fought in one of the Dornish incursions. So he's actually fought in real combat before. But Gawain Hightower, he's only been in tourneys up until this point. So he's very green.
At the end of the day, you're going up against people that got freaking dragons.
Exactly.
Like, how well can you prepare? Even if they had a scorpion there, like imagine they were like dragging around a big ass scorpion or something with them. How long that shit would take to like crank up and everything. And that's like a young dragon that's like pretty agile. They made Moon Dancer very agile and fast, I thought. So
definitely.
You're never
it
really
seems
prepared.
like Moon Dancer was kind of I mean, yeah. I again, as BK brings up, bring my brown pants. That is Sir Gawain right now. Bring me my brown pants. And yes, good point, Catspar. If nothing else, it does kind of show the eagle eye vision that dragons have. For them, for Bela and Moondancer to be flying at such a height that they were flying at, and for Moondancer to notice Crispin and them instantly. Yes, these dragons very much have eagle-eyed vision. So that's a very good point as well. I think I'm the only one that loves the turkey gobbler on Nana Vagar. No, you're not the only one. There are a lot of people that actually like the design of Vagar. I'm just not one of them personally. I'm not the biggest fan of it myself, but I know there seem to be a lot of people that like it. I know Kayla loves it.
No, I do not. Don't lie. I absolutely am offended by what they did to my Vagar. My Vagar. They destroyed the majesticness of Vagar, the Dragon Queen, the greatest dragon, in my opinion. God, I need Aegon's
well, hopefully
conquest.
We'll get a much nicer and more kind of prime version of Vagar if Aegon's conquest gets greenlit. Hopefully. I like seeing Cole afraid, says Kiwi Skirt. Yeah, that was fun. I mean, anytime you see Cole kind of pissing himself, that's always fun. That's always a good scene. Crispin has become the most hated character on the show. And I know I said this in some of our previous streams, but if nothing else, it speaks to the phenomenal acting that Fabian Frankel is displaying in season 2, where Fabian Frankel seems to be a really cool dude, seems to be a really nice guy, yet he's able to kind of turn himself into this monster that Crispin Cole has become. So that's why, I mean, it sucks to see that he was catching all of the hate that he was catching outside of the show. And you hate to see when portions of the fandom can't separate character from the separate the character from the actor themselves. And I know we talked about this in the past, but the same thing happened to Joffrey as well, Jack Gleason, where it got so bad, the harassment got so bad for him that he just quit Hollywood for a while and went back to stage acting. But it looks like he is making his return. He was cast in season 2 of Sandman. So Joffrey is coming back, apparently. But yeah, you just hate to see when a portion of the fandom can't separate the actor from the character they're playing. Just because Crispin Cole is an absolute scumbag doesn't mean that Fabian Frankel deserves the level of ire that we have for Crispin Cole. It's totally fine to hate Cole, but the actor himself, Fabian Frankel, you hate to see him actually catching that kind of hate.
I mean, if anything, it's just a testament to how great of an actor he is, for him to instill that much emotion from people.
Yeah.
He's doing great at his job. Give the man a raise.
Definitely. Yeah, I will say this. He is in terms of just straight up acting chops and acting performances, he is one of the better actors on the show, I think. So yeah, if nothing else, like you said, it's showing he's a really good actor and he's portraying his part very well if it's inspiring that much ire among the fandom. I love how it was super bright daylight scene. Awesome. Hell yes, Camilla. And that's one thing I've definitely noticed that has been a little bit better in season 2 than in season 1 in terms of just the overall cinematography. Whereas season 1, the lighting issues in season 1 were bad. And it wasn't even just the lighting issues. It was contrast issues. It was saturation issues. There were so many issues with the cinematography in season 1 that it's nice to see that they've kind of wisened up in terms of filming day scenes during the day and filming night scenes at night. It's just a better way to film things. So yeah, I agree. I think season 2's cinematography is a little bit better. But let's get some predictions as we get into episode 4, because we got a question right here from our good pal Radical Z. And again, seeing as the show is kind of deviating at times, I wouldn't be too surprised if we see some big changes from book to show. And could this potentially be one of them? Radical Z asks, could Cole die in Rook's Rest? Interesting question. I don't think so.
I don't
personally.
think so.
I think it's a little too soon. I feel like he's still got a little bit more to do. I mean, I guess anything's possible, but no, I think Crispin Cole will be surviving Rook's Rest. What about you guys?
He'll be surviving it for sure.
He has to.
Surviving?
Yeah, he's going to survive it. So I don't see. Yeah, I just don't. I don't see him
It's
being.
too soon. It's way too soon.
Yep. No, he's got
It's just too
a
soon.
lot of
Yeah.
nefarious shit he needs to do before he do that.
Exactly. I
Yeah.
mean, I think
And one thing
pretty
I'm
much.
actually
Sorry.
no, go ahead.
Oh no! I mean, I'm just waiting for the butcher's ball to come
Oh,
come
yeah.
on. So whenever they choose to include that, you know,
Yeah. Yeah,
I
I
mean,
think we'll get that. Well, I no, I don't think. I'm pretty sure we will be getting the Butcher's Ball. That's one of those
well,
kind of big battles that they
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
need to depict. That's a very important one.
it's
But yeah, no, I don't think he'll die in Rook's Rest. I feel like I agree. I think he's still got a lot more to do. And one
Mm-hmm.
aspect I'm actually really looking forward to is the dynamic between Crispin and Aemond after Rook's Rest and how that dynamic is going to play out. We get a little bit of it in Fire and Blood in terms of them kind of having a little bit of a fallout at one point in terms of
Mhm.
Aemond wanting to go in one route and Crispin wanted to go in a different route. So, if nothing else, I'm looking forward to seeing how the dynamic between the Greens is handled after the Battle of Rook's Rest. How are Aemond and Crispin going to kind of get along? They seem to be friends up until this point. They seem to be getting along well. They seem to be of a similar mind in terms of military strategy approaching the war. But I do get the feeling that relationship will get strained after Rook's Rest, and we see who ends up in what position, I guess I could say without
Mhm.
spoiling anything. So
Mm-hmm.
that's what I'm looking forward to. I want to see the dynamic between Crispin and Aemond going forward after the Battle of Rook's Rest. I think that's going to be a lot of fun scenes there between those two.
Potentially in an
But yeah,
aspect, it will kind of mirror like how Damon has like that kind of hatred towards Otto being Hand in an aspect, and I think we'll see Aemond kind of be that way towards Kristen when it comes to their brothers.
ooh, okay, interesting, interesting. Could be, could
Without
be.
spoiling too much, that's just my opinion
Yeah.
because he's mirroring Damon, so
He is. He's very much mirroring Damon, and even the actor Ewan Mitchell came out and admitted as much in an interview recently, where the way he's playing Aemond as though Aemond idolizes Damon, and I feel like that was very much obvious from day one. But it's nice to kind of hear the actor come out and confirm it that Ewan Mitchell very much is crafting Aemond in a sense where he idolizes Damon. And again, you can very well see it. Those
Mm-hmm.
two characters parallel each other a
Yeah.
lot, even though Aemon's
Yeah.
kind of a discount version of Damon, in my opinion.
Yeah.
They're keeping Cole to annoy us all the way until season 3.
there are a lot of women that find him very attractive
I can see that.
too.
Yeah.
A lot
He's
of
a handsome
women.
guy. I could see that. Yeah, he's a handsome guy. I could see that.
Fills out the armor well.
And yes, he's still got moves to make, people to piss off, as Jess says. Indeed, yeah, he's still got moves to make and people to piss off. How's he going to yell at Aemon to stop and be present at Mealy's parade? Oof. That's a scene I'm really kind of dreading. As much as I'm dreading the actual the actual act of the battle itself, the aftermath of it and that parade in particular, I am not looking forward to seeing. And we have seen from the season 2 behind the scenes, from some of the leaks when they were filming season 2. I actually even did a video on it. They did, at the very least, they did film that scene. I remember seeing the stills. I remember seeing the leaked video. They did, at the very least, film that scene with Maylee's in the car. Will it make it into the show? I don't know. But that scene was filmed. That much I do know.
I will cry.
That much I do.
I will literally
That's gonna be
cry. I don't want to see any but this is what it is.
I'm Team Dragon. I've
exactly.
always been Team Dragon. And I totally get HBO kind of playing up the whole Team Green versus Team Black promotional material. It's a very good promotional strategy in terms of leaning into who are you, Team Black, Team Green. I've never been either team. I've never been Team Black or Team Green myself. You guys know me. I am Team Dragon and a little bit Team Small Folk. But yeah, it's the dragons who are the real victims of the dance, in my
I
opinion.
disagree. I think it's the sheep and the rams that are constantly fed to the
But
dragons.
you know what though? There are more
This is
sheep
true.
and
This is
rams
true.
than dragons.
This
Just
is
saying,
true.
the sheep and
Who's
rams
going to think about the
outnumber the
sheep?
dragons.
Right.
You know, we're sitting here thinking about the
You'd think it'd
dragons
be
and
the
the
New
small folk
Zealander
and
that
the
would be worried
greens
about
and the
the sheep,
blacks.
but no.
Yeah. Nobody's worrying about the sheep at the end of the day. Well, maybe Nettles will. If
Well,
we get
and
her.
it does come back to small folk, because you do have to say, if they're not utilizing the dragons like they are, they're not going to be consuming as many sheep and ram. Meanwhile, people are starving. I mean, that's the King's Landing. Like they're suffering from food shortages, and we're flying dragons everywhere, and we're feeding them rams and sheep and pigs. And oh well, yeah, that food could go elsewhere. But you know, it shows the and that's what I like about this show, is it shows you how that's like their absolute last concern is the small folk, both sides.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. As much as kings and queens and high lords, as much as they try to portray themselves as caring about the small folk, we know at the end of the day, when that first shot is fired, when war actually starts, the small folk are always the first victim. They are always the ones that kind of suffer the most when the high lords play their games of thrones.
Right. Well,
So
that's
yeah,
true,
I
and that's
very
true
much agree.
across anything. Even
Yeah.
in reality, that's the case. But
Yeah,
it's just
yeah,
it's
even in
nice that
life.
it's grounded here, that you actually get to see a little bit of that cost. I think
Yeah.
that adds to it. It adds to the atmosphere.
And
I agree.
it will be interesting in the next episode to see how the dynamics between the royalty changes as they have, they have to face one another directly in battle, and then there are casualties as a result.
Right.
And so, how is that going to change their interactions?
And I make light of a lot of stuff and, try to make a laugh out of it. But April May and I are on the same page on this, too. This irritates me. Cole can't even hold a sword right.
He's no Jon Snow.
Man, I'm a Lord of the Rings fan through and through. And I was really worried when Peter Jackson was going to do the trilogy. But watching how they handled the weaponry, especially Aragorn. I mean, that guy Vigo ended up sleeping with his sword. So it was just naturally a part of him. You got to be that familiar with it. There are moments, especially in House of the Dragon Season 2, where it's like, did you just hand him it and then go action? Like, my God, like they don't seem to have any familiarity with how to just even walk with a scabbard. And that bugs me just a little bit. I'm one of those guys that is, the cigarette ash in this scene was a little bit more than in this scene, and that bugs me, and my OCD jumps in. So when I see a guy like fumbling around who's in the King's Guard in the background as he's walking with his scabbard hitting his leg, it's like, my God, no. Like, it just bugs me. But I'm right there with you, April May. Like, that did bug me too when he had his sword in his hand, and it's like, what the hell? Like, who grips a weapon like that?
That's a good point. That is a good point. And I'm the same way when it comes to like things like cigarettes and stuff like that. You'll see one scene and the ash will be the size of a fucking Dr. Seuss hat. Then you'll see a second later and it'll be like it's a brand spanking new cigarette. It's like I can't stand those little continuity errors.
Or how much coffee's in a cup. Or any of that, like just you got to have those continuity guys that are constantly watching for each individual take, so that everything is balanced and make sure that things like Star Cup cups don't show up in scenes. But oh man, irritating. I'm right there with you, April May. Good call. Thanks for setting me off.
Yeah, very good call. Yeah, good call, April. Very good call indeed.
It was a shame to know that Westeros drinks Starbucks and not Dunks. They were in the north too. Like they were in the north too.
Well, you think if they were in the north, it'd be Tim Hortons, but
it would be Dunks if it's coffees. We're northerners over here.
We know at the very least they drive Ford F-150s. So
yes,
that's
who knew that?
Radical Z says, can you say a little bit about the Butcher's Ball? What characters are involved besides Kristen? Without spoiling too much, yes, the Winter Wolves are going to play a very big part in the Butcher's Ball. We got a little bit of a mention of the Winter Wolves early in season 2, where Cregan says he has thousands of graybeards that could be ready to march at once. Those are the Winter Wolves, and they will be playing a very big part in the Butcher's Ball itself. But in terms of some of the other characters, we have the Winter Wolves, Roderick Dustin, Red Rob Rivers, Sir Garland Gray, Pate the Longleaf. I cannot wait to see who they cast as Sir Pate the Longleaf. Pate is such a freaking awesome character. But the Butcher's Ball, there's a reason why it's called the Butcher's Ball. It is an absolute slaughter. And I mean absolute slaughter. Probably one of the bloodiest ground battles in the history of Westeros. So I cannot wait to see that happen. Yes, we will see Crispin Cole kind of clashing with the Winter Wolves for the most part. And Red Rob Rivers is known to be one of the finest, if not the finest archer in all of the Seven Kingdoms. Cannot wait to see who they cast in that role. But yeah, I don't want to spoil too much. But the Butcher's Ball, I have a feeling it's going to be one of those hugely chaotic battles that is going to have a kind of Battle of the Bastards type feel in terms of the finality of it, in terms of one side very much decisively winning that battle, and the other side, both sides are going to incur heavy losses in that battle, but one side will decisively win, and we will see probably one of the coolest scenes ever from Sir Roderick Dustin in terms of what he does single-handedly. Yes. With one arm, for crying out loud.
Yes, so freaking cool, so badass. I can't wait. I'm all for a slaughter happening. And just I love action. Like, I love it. I love to see the violence play out and go down, and just people fighting to their death. I don't know what's wrong with me. I'm just like, fight.
Yeah, no, April May brings up a good point. I cannot hardly wait to see Northmen really fight. They are freakish berserker in text. They really are. Like, if you know anything about the berserkers of Viking mythology, the Winter Wolves very much fight just like that. They pretty much are the berserkers of the North, and they have nothing to lose, no fear. Hell, they actually came into this war knowing they were going to die, hoping they were going to die. They straight up say they came here to die for the Dragon Queen. And those words, and it proves that those words prove true time and time again when it comes to the Winter Wolves. They're not just talking a big game. They say they came to die for the Dragon Queen, and they very much do come down to die for the Dragon Queen, but they're going to take a lot of friggin' people with them. Yeah, I cannot wait to see the Winter Wolves on screen. That's going to be such a fun part of the show. I cannot wait to get to season 3.
You gotta love the Northern men.
Season 2 is, yeah, man. Anything that has to do with the North.
Like me, they're loyal. They keep their words. Like, come on now. Like, they're phenomenal. They'll fight to the death. Like,
yeah, they'll fight hard. Like, no,
they'll fight hard.
Oh, I love that scene. I love that scene. They'll fight hard like Northerners. And that very and we are going to see that. They are going to fight incredibly hard. Like, incredibly hard. Cole might have rusty fighting skills, says Jamie Bone. Ooh, that's interesting. That's very interesting. I mean, they do kind of portray Crispin a little bit more so in the book than in the show as one of the best sword fighters in the history of the Seven Kingdoms, almost, the way they kind of describe him, even getting the better of Daemon, which doesn't really happen to Daemon very often. But yeah, we haven't really seen Crispin have a proper fight in a very long time. It'd be interesting to see if he's got a little bit of rust he needs to shake off. That's possible, Jamie. That's very possible.
He's been having battles in the bedroom. That's what he's been doing.
Yeah, he's been battling Allison in the sand.
He's been doing that. So, yeah.
Interesting stuff, guys. Interesting stuff. Well, I cannot freaking wait. We are getting closer and closer now. Episode 4 is just around the corner now, less than 24 hours away. We will be diving into all things episode 4, and the Battle of Rook's Rest will eventually be upon us. And again, I feel like this is very much the episode that we've all been waiting for, the episode that really takes the show to that next level, the next level that was very much promised at the end of season 1, when we get that little bit of the taste of dragon battle between Aemond and Vhagar and taking out Luke and Arax. Which is just a very small scratch of the surface compared to all the savage dragon battles that we're going to get throughout this series. But I very much feel like episode 4, the Battle of Rook's Rest, this is when the war, this is when the dance truly begins. And I cannot wait to see how it plays out on screen. We have our kind of blueprint in terms of Fire and Blood, but I cannot wait to see what the show does with that blueprint. And I am definitely expecting there to be some changes. I'm definitely not expecting the Battle of Rook's Rest to be a one-to-one depiction from book to show. I am definitely anticipating some changes, and I cannot wait to see what those changes are. And I'm looking forward to it. This is going to be the big one, guys. This is it. The Battle of Rook's Rest is almost here. It is almost here. But before we close it down, one thing I do want to get is everybody in the chat and everybody on the panel's rating. One thing we always like to do at the ending of these streams. How exactly would you guys rate episode 3 from 1 to 10? 1 being shite and 10 being perfect. Where exactly would you guys rate episode 3? And let me know in the chat as well, where would you guys rate episode 3 from 1 to 10? Now, on my review, I gave it a 7 out of 10, but upon some of the rewatches, I think I might drop that down to a 6.5 out of 10. There were some aspects of episode 3 that I really enjoyed. I loved the Daemon and Harrenhal stuff. I love the introduction of Alice Rivers. I just feel like we didn't get enough of them, but I know we're going to get more of them throughout the rest of season 2. Damon's going to spend a good amount of time at Harrenhal, so there'll probably be more time for them to have some good scenes together. We know they're going to get some good scenes in episode 4, actually, based on some of the stills. But for me, I give episode 3 a 6.5 out of 10. It definitely felt a little bit more like, not a filler episode, but definitely a little bit more of a setup episode for the big events that are going to be coming in episode 4, which is understandable. They set up Rook's Rest pretty nicely. Now they need to deliver. I cannot wait to see what they do with the actual battle. Bring on Sunday, ladies and gentlemen. Episode 4 is just a few hours away now. I cannot wait to see it. But what about you, Kayla? Where would you rate episode 3 from 1 to 10?
So I gave it a lower rating than even you did. So this was my least favorite episode so far of the season. I gave it a 6.
Oh, okay.
And that's because I really wanted to see the Blackwoods and the Brackens go at it. I wanted to see some of it. At least give me 3 minutes of it. You know, I feel like there were other parts of this episode they could have cut down.
Like the Ulf the White scene in particular.
Yeah,
we spent almost 5 minutes on Ulf the White introducing his character, which was fun, don't get me wrong, but they could have introduced Ulf the White in a fraction of the time and given some more screen time to either the Blackwoods and Brackens or even Daemon and Alice. So I agree with you there.
There's just certain things that for me, I don't know, and some of the pacing with this episode again, but I'm hopeful that tomorrow's episode we're gonna see everything turn and everything is gonna flow smoothly from here on out. But yeah, a 6, which
6
I
out of 10.
I never thought that I'd be rating it a 6. I thought all these episodes would at least be like a 7.5. 8, because the other two, that's what my ratings were about. Yeah.
All righty, interesting. 6 out of 10. What about you, Aldous? Where would you put episode 3?
As the gray cloud of doom, I'm going to say a 4.5. But there's a context on that.
I'm sorry, Aldous.
They episode 1 and episode 2 were brilliant exposition. It was ramping up everything. And then this disrupted, as I described in my opening, that momentum. They were building impetuous and it dropped off. There's no there's nothing after this. This was a stone wall. It hit. So the only thing that, I mean, at this point, for my rating to go up, I need to finish the whole series now. If they can really twist this and use this long extended lull as a deep breath before like the next 3 to 5 episodes of really just kicking ass, then yeah, I understand why they did this. But if we get 1 or 2 episodes of and what I'm concerned the biggest about is we're just going to try to cram too much in. And that's why I think this is going to be a miss for me on this episode. I think the time is so vital, especially in an 8 episode series. To use it the way they used it here, I think it's an absolute miss.
Okay. Interesting. All right. I like it. I love hearing everybody's takes. What about you, Snug? Where would you rate episode 3 from 1 to 10, 10 being perfect?
I'd say around 6.5 as well.
Okay.
I agree with Aldous is that if this is setting it up, if this is setting up for later episodes, then I might give it a higher rating, but I'd have to see what they look like and how they handled what
that's
they've
fair.
what they've
That's
set up.
definitely
So,
fair.
yeah.
Yeah. And I do think that this episode in particular was a little bit more of that kind of setup episode for what is going to be coming in episode 4 in terms of seeing Kristen Cole kind of gather up some of the Green forces, seeing them leave King's Landing and start going on some of their scouting missions. It had that feeling anyway of a quote unquote setup episode. So I do think episode 4 is going to be much more substantial in terms of actual story and substance, and of course, spectacle. It's going to be a very big spectacle indeed. But before we close out, let's see what you guys are saying in the chat as well. We got a 6.5 out of 10 from Radical Z. We got a 7 out of 10 from Cat's Paw. Another 7 out of 10 from Vic. We got another 7 out of 10 from Misty. We got a 9 out of 10 from Rockers Los Angeles. We got a 7.5 from Leo V. Awesome stuff, guys. We got a 7.5 out of 10 from Kiwi. We have a 6 from Rotu. Awesome. We got a 7 from Doc Hayes. Another 7 from Tyler Bolivar. Awesome stuff. 7.5 from Jess. We got a 7.25 from Jamie Bone. Hell yes.
I love it.
Hell yes. 7 out of 10 only because I hated the brothel and loved Bela part. Well, that is totally cool. Whether you love the brothel scene or hated the brothel scene, that is totally cool. We want to know what you guys thought. Erica gives it a 6.75 out of 10. Awesome. We got a 6 only because that Septa Ray Scooby-Doo King's Landing mission really left me with a bad taste. Oh, great stuff. Great stuff, guys. Without Bela the Dragon scene, easy 5 out of 10 for Vic. Ooh, okay. Awesome. Well, this is what we like to hear. I love getting everybody's opinions. I love to know what you guys think about these shows. What did you like? What scenes did you not like? What was your takeaway from the episode? I love getting everybody's opinions on these things. You guys never fail to disappoint. You guys never disappoint. You guys are the freaking best. The Crymenzen Ace, we got a 7, another 7. It seems like we've got a lot of 7s. There's another 7 in the chat. We got a lot of 7s tonight, which seems to be kind of closer to the average score. And again, my original rating was a 7 on my review. Upon rewatching it a few more times, I kind of dropped that down to a 6.5, but it was still an enjoyable episode. I haven't seen any of the episodes that I've outright hated yet. I've at least enjoyed all of them. But yeah, I do have a feeling from episode 4 on, it's going to be much more crazy. I think it's going to be a little bit more, the stakes are going to get raised. The show is going to have a much different feel going forward from episode 4 on concerning the dynamics of the Greens and the Blacks, considering who's left over after this massive battle. So I cannot wait for it to all play out. I think it is going to be an absolutely phenomenal battle. It's been getting very high praises and very high ratings up until this point. A lot of people have been comparing it to the Battle of the Bastards, which is a pretty good sign. So I cannot wait I am dying to see a little bit more from Damon and Alice at Harrenhal, and we will be getting that in episode 4 as well. So I cannot wait. Bring on the Battle of Rooks Rest. I want to see this Dance of the Dragons actually begin, as heartbreaking as it is going to be to start seeing some of these awesome characters and these awesome dragons start to perish. As tragic as that is, I am definitely ready for the Dance of the Dragons to truly, truly begin. And that is what we are going to get tomorrow night. So definitely come back and hang out with us tomorrow night right here on the channel. I will be going live around 7 p.m. Eastern, usually around 2 hours before the episode drops on HBO Max. I will be live right here on the channel for our usual pre-game shows. So definitely come back and hang out tomorrow with me for a little bit. Kill some time while we wait for episode 4 to load up on HBO. And thank you so much, Kiwi Skirt, as well. Kiwi has been dropping our Discord link into the chat. If you are not a member of our Discord, definitely hop on in there. You guys will be the first ones to get updates on future content, live streams, everything. And of course, we tend to have some nice watch parties and stuff right in the Discord as well. So hop onto the Discord if you haven't already. Come and hang out with us, and definitely come and hang out with us tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Eastern, right here on the channel for our House of the Dragon episode 4 pre-game show. And it looks like the episode 4 title is going to be called The Dance of the Dragons, which is very
Shit's going
fitting.
down.
Very, very fitting indeed. And of course, biggest thank you goes out to the awesome, awesome chat. I want to thank each and every one of you for coming out and hanging out with us every week and sharing your thoughts and your theories and your opinions on these episodes. I love hearing and hanging out with each and every one of you. I love talking about the show with all of you guys. We certainly would not be doing these streams if it wasn't for the coolest chat in all of YouTube, hanging out with us week after week after week. And of course, my awesome, awesome co-hosts, Kayla, Snuggy, Aldous. Can't thank you guys enough. I love getting on here and diving into all of these things with you. And I cannot wait for us to get on here next week and dissect the big Battle of Rooks Rest, and we will see exactly how this thing is going to unfold. But again, big thank you to each and every one of you. I hope everybody in the chat is having a phenomenal weekend. Stay safe out there, everybody. I hope everyone had a phenomenal 4th of July. If you celebrate 4th of July, I hope you had a very fun and safe one. And again, definitely come and hang out with us tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Eastern, for our House of the Dragon episode 4 pre-game show. But until next time, ladies and gentlemen, keep those tinfoil hats on, folks. Stay kind to one another. Stay safe, and I will see you on the next one.
Gods. Kings. Fire. And blood. Dreams didn't make us kings. Dragons did. The threat of war looms.
There is no war so hateful as a war between kin.
I mean to fight this war and win it.
I will not be thought weak. I wish to spill blood.
And no war so bloody as a war between dragons.